to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
Boys, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Hey,
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, happy holidays
Absolutely.
and soon to be happy New Year,
Close.
right?
Yeah.
It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that 2020 is almost over.
In some ways, it went very fast.
In other ways, it feels like
never
3
ended.
years.
I know.
It's like the 3-year year.
I totally agree. So, yeah, it's great to have you boys back on.
Really fast.
Round 2.0, right? The last
Yeah.
time you guys were back on here was, I think it was in March, or maybe it was April. It was very early on in the podcast.
We were just talking about
you
that.
were, I think, you were our very first conversation.
Really?
I think.
Were we
Yeah.
podcast
when you
number
went
one?
when you back full
When
time.
we started back up, when we went from the GBS
Okay.
podcast to the Kent
Yeah.
Lapp podcast in March or April, I think you guys were the first. You were the first or the second. So
What do you think about that?
don't screw it up.
Don't.
Exactly.
Let's start with this. Alan, Dixon, Mac, Harper, just give us a little bit about yourselves.
Let me go first.
Please.
All right, Alan Dixon. Married, 2 kids. Just finalized our second adoption.
Congratulations.
I am a real estate agent, investor.
You're a rainmaker, a money maker.
Money maker. Yeah. And so lived here just outside of Nashville the last 10 years. Yeah. Busy year. I'd say that by far the busiest year ever I've had. No question.
And one of my best friends.
Oh, wow.
Mac,
Smell that.
let us know what we're about to drink before you introduce yourself.
Smell this.
Whatever you do, don't just pour that without telling us
No.
about it. You want to pass that over here?
Yeah.
All right. Tell us about yourself, Mac.
Well, my name's Mac, obviously. Harper is my last name. Mackenzie's my actual first name. Just go by Mac.
No way. I didn't know that was your
Yeah,
first name.
did you not know that?
Theodore is my first name.
No way.
Yes way.
That's a
I didn't know
solid
that.
first name.
But Mackenzie's a solid first name, too.
But it's got no A in it. It's capital M, lowercase c, capital K. Most people,
Okay.
actually, everyone gets it wrong.
So what's your middle name?
Isaac.
Is that
Your name is Mackenzie Isaac Harper, and you
Yes.
go by Mac?
That's it.
Is
now,
that
okay? No, in the professional world, I go by Mackenzie.
Oh, do you?
Just my friends and family call me Mac.
All right, so
Oh, you know what?
is this a tribute to your Irish background or something?
No, I have no Irish background.
I don't believe that for a second.
I mean,
Well,
Alan,
at
he's-
least
I don't believe it either. He just
He
don't
walks
know.
in
He
here
just
with
don't know.
bourbon and whiskey, and I mean, look at him.
Look at that red. Look at that red stash. That's an Irishman if I ever saw it.
So I'm pretty convinced. So my brother and my father actually my dad wanted a daughter and my brother wanted a sister. And hold on,
Your dad wanted a daughter, and your brother wanted a sister.
well, what I mean is, so before I was born, that's what they were hoping for, right? And so I think they had that name picked out before they found out I was a boy.
Okay.
And I think they just made
okay.
it work. I'm convinced.
You think?
I'm convinced that's what happened.
Wow.
Wait, do you think it was Mackenzie?
Yeah, I think that's what the girl's name was going to be if it was a girl.
It could go that way. Sure.
I'm convinced.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I think I don't. I do think like Mackenzie's a strong name for a girl too. Like I feel like if you're a Mackenzie and you're a female, you're probably good looking. And I feel like that wore off on you, Mac.
oh well, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
Now,
Now,
I think
do
you were
love my name though.
It's a great name. But tell
professional-
us more about yourself and just your name.
All right. Well, I'm married. We're going on our 4th year. No kids yet. We're trying, so we're getting there.
All right.
We've been living in Nashville.
Hey, that's
for
a great
year.
stage of life. I just want to interject real quick.
Yeah, go
We
ahead.
waited about 4 or 5 years to have kids, and that was a very fun stage. But, you're trying for kids for good reasons because
Yeah.
they're awesome also.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
it's like you're in a very particular stage of life right now. You
Mhm.
may as well enjoy it to the full
Absolutely.
because you're never going to go back.
Absolutely. We've been living in Nashville for about a year, actually over a year. So we're working on our 2nd year now. I'm a police officer here in Middle Tennessee. I enforce the law,
Oh, yes, you do.
and I absolutely love it.
Yeah. You look at him, Alan. If you saw that guy on the street,
Yeah.
A, you would guess he's a police officer,
Right.
And B, you would guess that he probably loves his job.
He does.
Right?
He has that look in his eyes.
Absolutely,
like-
I love
I
it.
appreciate it, Mac.
I love
for
this
sure.
job. When I get up and go to work, I can't believe I get paid to do it.
Oh, really?
It's phenomenal.
Really? That's
I
really
love this job.
talking to that mic. What was I telling you earlier, bro?
Oh,
there
man,
you go.
am I not in
eat
it?
it. No, you
there
gotta
you
eat
go.
it.
Close.
Eat
No,
that mic.
Listen, that boom goes. Yep, the boom.
Turn it up a little bit,
The boom
too,
goes
that'll
up
help
and
Yeah, maybe
down.
I gotta. Okay.
Move. Even
better.
you can
That's
move the
better.
mic this way. Just make yourself.
You would think that
comfortable,
I'm
man.
really bad with technology, but I'm actually not. Okay.
You decent?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
I'm really good at it.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure to have you guys back on the podcast. Thank you for being back on.
Absolutely.
This is fun.
I'm excited.
This is fun the first time. It'll be fun again this time. I'm excited. Yes.
Let's
You're
get
gonna
into
pour
this.
some
Yes.
some bourbon. What are we drinking, Mac? Because
So this is,
the listeners don't know.
This is Colonel E.H. Taylor small batch.
Hey, if you face that into the camera over my left or right shoulder,
This is not.
there you go.
This is not an ad.
Ooh, can
I
you see that,
promise.
Andrew? Andrew, can we see that? Okay.
So my wife actually introduced me to this. Well, she didn't, but the guy that I buy from, he was previous law enforcement as well. So my wife went to buy me a gift for when I was graduating the police academy, and it was E.H. Taylor single barrel, which is it's a little more higher end than the small batch is. So Colonel E.H. Taylor, he actually invented the bond, the bottled in bond. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
A bottled in bond is 100 proof, minimum aged 4 years. So he kind of paved the way.
Kind of he set the bar for quality.
Yeah.
I see.
So he
Okay.
basically kind of paved the way for modern distilleries.
Okay.
And I just found out today that it's made by Buffalo Trace. Had no idea.
It is now.
It is now. Well, it wasn't before. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Buffalo Trace has pretty much went through and bought up all the great whiskeys. Not all
Oh,
of
really?
them. But
Okay. So
even
Okay.
Pappy is owned by Buffalo Trace.
so
now.
prior to Buffalo Trace making it, it was its own.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Give me your glasses. Come on.
Here we go. I'll go.
Did you smell it? It smells wonderful.
I did. It does smell wonderful.
Tell me when to stop.
Alan, he wants a healthy pour.
Yeah. Don't be stingy.
There you go.
Nah, I'm
Is
kidding.
that
I'm
good? You
kidding.
want more?
No, it's good.
Thanks
Hey,
for bringing that, Mac.
Absolutely.
I
can get
appreciate
more
it, man.
bottles, so take as much as you want.
And I don't remember which Colonel E.H. Taylor I've had before, but I've only had 2 bottles. Thank you.
That was a little much. Sorry.
And like I was telling you, dollar for dollar, this is my favorite.
It is
E.H.
My-
Taylor's
this,
wonderful.
this is my favorite bourbon.
Now, I'll tell you what is actually one of my favorites. I don't know if you ever had it. Willet. Have you ever had Willet pot
Yeah.
still?
Yeah.
I got the single barrel Willet at the house.
Do you really?
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to get my hands on it, and I can't find it anywhere.
Shout out to Southern Whiskey Society.
Where's
Oh,
that
that's
at?
where you
2 years
got
ago.
it?
Yeah, that's where I got
Oh,
it.
yeah?
It was their
Nice.
private select.
Okay. Yeah. Shout out to Southern Whiskey Society. And people can go to madesouth.com and sign up for their virtual events.
That's exactly right.
Well, they're not doing it. They're not doing it.
That's
They're not
actually
doing it
why
live anymore.
That's the only reason why I have the E.H. Taylor single barrel as
Oh,
well,
man.
because that was the
single barrel.
that was this year's bottle or one of the options for the bottle, and then they had to cancel it. They're like, "Hey, do you want the bottle?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take it."
Okay. Hey, you can leave your headphones like they are, or if you turn them around, the cord won't go across your
Oh,
neck. Whatever's
wow.
comfortable, right? It's very good.
That is delicious.
Yeah, thanks, Mac.
I've never had the small batch. This is my first time having that one. The single barrel is what I've had.
Wow.
And it is phenomenal. Yeah, I'm a huge Willet fan. I have not had the single barrel yet. I've been looking for it.
If I'd have thought about it, I could have brought it.
Alan, let me give you a little trick that Jason Rigel with Guidance Whiskey, he was on the podcast, and it's called Dip and Sip. Take the what one could consider the suck end of the cigar and just dip it into the bourbon a tiny little bit, just a little bit.
I've never heard of this, but okay.
I didn't either until
Let's do
then, and then take a sip, and then
It's not bad.
smoke the cigar.
It's not bad at all.
Just gives a little extra flavor.
Yeah, I
Wow.
like that.
All right, boys. So,
So wait, your favorite whiskey?
oh,
So E.H. Taylor is yours.
No, Willet is mine.
Willet is yours. Is E.H. Taylor your favorite?
dollar for dollar, E.H. Taylor is probably my favorite. When it comes to Buffalo Trace, what is that? $40 a bottle?
What,
30
that one?
No, Buffalo Trace. I feel like Buffalo
probably
Trace. It's
around
not
in-
that expensive.
That bottle is probably running 39 to 45.
I think so. So as far as like that price range, Buffalo Trace. Like as far as like a good common drinker, I like Buffalo Trace.
I have to say that
it tastes good.
if I'm just sipping dollar for dollar, my favorite is the Four Roses single barrel.
Oh, you can't go
I
wrong.
mean,
with
I agree
Four
with that
Roses.
too.
if
That's not
if
gonna
you're
go
just,
wrong.
I mean, it's easy to get your hands on. You're
And
not.
it's so good.
It's smooth.
I totally agree with that.
The Stags though is if I'm just sitting down wanting a good drink.
Yep.
Stags, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
I don't disagree with that at all.
I love Four Roses. That's
agreed.
like so my 3 cheap bourbons that I go for is Woodford Reserve, Evan Williams, and Four Roses, just basic.
Evan
I can't do
Williams?
I can't do Woodford Reserve. I know that
do
is
Evan Williams.
against the grain, but the aftertaste. Like I had to start using it for my old fashions because I just couldn't.
Now,
drink
see,
it.
I do.
really?
Terrible.
That's what I
Not
buy cheap
terrible,
bourbons
it's just-
for is mixing. So, like, I use my Woodford
But
Reserve.
okay, but let's talk about that for a second because some would argue that you want good bourbon for your cocktails,
I'm not doing it.
and
gotta
I
drink
can
mine.
see the argument because cheap in, cheap out.
If I go somewhere, like out to a bar with my wife or friends, I will get an expensive bourbon in my mixed drinks. I will not mix my drinks at home with my expensive bourbons. I refuse. Because that's at home.
Because you'd rather just drink it straight.
Yes.
Which
See,
I also
I
paid
get
for that bottle.
I
So
totally get that.
here's the
They
deal.
did.
I'm in
Well, they
line
did.
with
If it's a
that.
good bottle, I'm only drinking it neat. I don't want ice.
I totally agree
I don't
with
want
that.
anything.
I totally agree. I'm coming from the standpoint of I want an old fashioned. What should I put in it?
I'm gonna
And
get.
I would argue that you should put a good bourbon or good whiskey in the old fashioned.
I'm gonna put a good mid grade in there.
Yeah.
But I would argue that Woodford is a great bourbon.
No, it's fine. Something about the aftertaste. I just can't do it. I don't know what it is. Everybody loves
Each
it.
to their own. Cheers, boys.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being back on. Oh, look at that. Look at that.
We're getting a clink here.
Hey,
it's a good day. It's 37
it is.
degrees outside. It's beautiful.
I will say this,
I
though.
can't be more happy today.
Okay, I'm very happy too. It's the day is great. You guys are here. Andrew's here. Everyone's rocking. We're having a good time. How are those mic stands working, by the way? I just put them up.
Great.
I had to chisel into the bottom of the table to clip them on. Then I had to screw in straight in the top. So this beautiful table.
Yeah.
It's
And you cut
it's
into
been
it.
it's been altered. But I will say this, Mac, for the day though. I almost tweeted this earlier. It's 35 degrees in Nashville this morning. I don't feel like humans were made to live in temperature this cold.
Okay, well, I love it, so
You know what
I
I'm
don't care
saying?
if
I'm
we were
not.
or not. I love cold
How
weather.
do you love it? How does it
I
not
wish
make you
it was
angry
cold. I
when you
wish it was
step out the
colder.
door?
I wish it was colder.
You've got to be
You're-
kidding me.
no
See,
way.
Andrew
the way you
agrees.
feel,
Do it.
Andrew agrees with you.
No.
the
no.
way that you feel.
As a Colorado native, colder is the way to live.
It is not.
It is.
It is not.
You
It's
have
just- it's
more
not-
control over how good you feel the colder it gets.
I didn't have any control when I stepped out this door to go to CrossFit at 11:30.
Put on a jacket.
I did have.
Put on more pants.
And I was angry.
I cannot wait for the day that I can have like a beach house for the winter. Just
See, no.
I agree.
100%.
I agree.
100%.
Mac, how do you like the cold, though? I don't understand.
Well, the way you feel about cold is the way I feel about heat.
I used to feel that way about
So,
heat.
I grew up
changed in the
in-
last 10 years. I kid you not.
Grew up in middle Mississippi, hot as all get out. I mean, you walk out and the humidity is like a coat on
Sure.
you. It's terrible. I sweat really easily. I get hot really easily.
Yep.
I mean, if it's 7 degrees in our house, I'm probably sweating. My ideal temperature on the thermostat is like 65.
Ooh, that's cold.
My man.
That's like
My man.
ideal.
I would sleep in 68 degrees.
My
weather,
wife hates it.
67 degrees for sure.
No, like
it's
I
fine if I'm
thrive.
sleeping because I can throw multiple
I
blankets
agree.
on me.
I like to
can
sleep
deal with
cold,
that.
but during the day when
No.
you get up, listen. No, nothing is as productive. The vehicles aren't as productive. You aren't as productive.
100%.
It's like you just don't feel. I just don't feel like humans were made to
Look,
for 35 degree and
I'm
below weather.
literally wearing a
I
long
disagree.
sleeve and a jacket because I'm such a wuss.
Yeah.
And like
have a-
you got short sleeves on, I can't do it.
I have
Yeah.
a white T-shirt under this, and that's it.
But then again, 6 out of 7 days a week, I'm walking around barefoot. I don't care if it's or flip flops. I don't care if it's snowing.
Outside,
Yes, my
Really?
feet don't get up cold.
But you
it's
don't-
my upper body.
you don't show no houses with no flip flops.
100%. I
No,
will.
you don't.
I legit show houses.
If somebody-
this is true. I show houses in like a suit, like a nice jacket, pants, whole 9 yards, and flip flops.
If my realtor shows up in
Wow.
flip flops, I'm buying that house immediately.
Like
That's
legit.
a
that
Strong
man,
move,
that
man.
man's confident.
Look, and just
is
I'm like,
correct.
and just look. This is who I am. Take me or leave me. I'm in flip flops.
I can appreciate the authenticity.
I have my dress flops, and I have
you
my
have a thing called dress flops.
they're leather. They're leather, so that they're nice and
That's a new term.
I got my dress flops.
I got my dress flops,
What are
and
you
then I
wearing
got
to
my
the dinner
and
party
then I got my
tonight?
watermelon flip flops that are just every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a pair of leather flip flops. I don't like flip flops. Can't stand them. I wear them probably 3 times a year. And then even then, I wish I wasn't wearing them.
I have what's called Chacos. You ever heard of those? They're like hiking shoes, but they're
Yes.
sandals.
They're just teasing
My
me.
wife got Chacos this summer thinking it's the cool thing to do, and I'll be honest, I don't care for the look.
The looks are
100%
they're ugly.
no.
Oh,
Yeah,
100%
they're
I will,
ugly.
hey, look,
But
I
they
will go
are
bare.
comfortable.
If
I'll
it
bet
was
that.
socially acceptable, I would never wear shoes. I would only
I
go
agree.
barefoot.
I
would
agree with that point.
100%.
Dude,
Yeah.
growing
Barefoot.
up, I never wore shoes.
No,
Around
and
the
it's
house
very
outside.
healthy. It's called grounding. So being barefoot,
My wife will wear shoes in the house.
I-
No,
no. If I have company over, or if I'm at your house, I prefer to keep my shoes on. I'll be honest with you.
That's
I
weird.
will do it out of respect for other people. It's my
You'll
house.
keep your shoes on
Yeah.
Just
out of
put your
respect for
socks
other
on.
people.
Meaning, like, if I
Nah.
go to somebody's house, I'm going to wear shoes. But
Yeah.
if I'm at my house, like, I'm always outside walking the dog barefoot around the place. complex.
I'm with you actually on that point. But here's my knock on flip flops: is it feels like you're always getting toe wedgie. So why wouldn't you just go barefooted? You know
Because
what I
it's
mean?
not
That's-
socially acceptable.
You're right.
That's a whole
Yeah,
thing. Like,
I get that.
Like,
you can't
I can
show a
already-
house barefoot.
You can't show a house barefoot, but you can't show it.
I'm just
in
imagining.
flip-flops.
I'm just imagining if I have him over for dinner one night.
Like,
He comes
literally,
out, he just shows
look,
up, no shoes.
this
on.
is-
all right.
Yeah.
Well,
This
come on
is
in.
my
Yeah,
common.
here's what
This
it
is my
is.
common attire when I'm and the only reason why I have these regular shoes on is because I had to meet a real client today, and I'm like, it might be a little weird, but
Okay. Oh, you're going no socks.
Oh,
A power move.
I don't wear socks either.
Do your feet not sweat?
No, they stink though.
Do they
From time
never
to time.
sweat? Honestly.
No,
Really? Okay. My feet sweat very easily. Yeah.
no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I
keep-
like the only time I ever wear socks is when I'm working out. That is
Wow.
a true story.
Wow.
That's the only reason.
I
why
wish
do
I
it.
could do that. Yeah, because I like going without socks. Well, for those types of shoes. For whatever these are, I think you feel like you should wear socks with these shoes. All right, guys. So we're going to talk about favorite.
We digress.
Yeah, we do digress.
One more thing on the cold. How you were talking about it's your upper body. For me, if my feet are cold, my entire body's cold. If my feet are warm, I'm good.
Really.
I'm great. My feet are the temperature to my whole body.
Okay,
That's
I
what-
feel like
Agreed.
I'm similar. Yeah, yeah, I can resonate with that.
I have to have warm feet if I'm going to be warm.
Mac is the most right man in this room.
Yeah.
Gosh, no.
Deer hunting, that was the one thing with deer hunting. My feet would get cold, and
Yes.
then you're just all cold, and I hated the being cold part. But it would start with the feet, so I'm with you on that. But here's another thing I'll submit for you guys' consideration. I wear gloves all the time.
Oh,
like if
my
I went outside
goodness.
right now, I'd put my gloves on. Even with short sleeves, I will wear my gloves. If I'm driving anywhere, I will wear my gloves.
Really?
Yeah, I always have gloves handy.
I do not
listen,
remember
I
the
like to have
can't
my
take you serious.
fingers within gloves.
I bet it's
I like
been-
for them to be warm.
I bet it's been years since I wore gloves.
It's 37 degrees, and if I went outside right now, I would rather have my gloves on.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't care what kind of gloves. I just want. I mean, I'm not talking about like big fluffy gloves. I'm just talking about like leather gloves or sheepskin gloves. You know, that's that. So, all right.
That's going to be
so-
hard not to make fun of you over that.
I don't care, bro. I wear
You
gloves
wear
all
gloves
the time.
driving.
Oh, 100%. And it's got nothing to do with the car I'm driving. Like if I drive our old minivan, I'm going to be wearing gloves. That's it's not funny. First of all, you can drive better with gloves on because your hands never slip on the wheel. And second of all, you don't
You
want
have
cold
problems
hands.
with the wheel slipping in your hands?
Hey, if you get,
Are your
hey, every
hands
race car
greasy?
driver I've ever seen is wearing gloves.
Because
They
they're
don't-
going 250 miles an hour.
Not
and-
80.
Yeah, fair point. All right, so I thought it would be fun to have you guys back on just to have fun and talk about favorite memories and experiences and stories from 2020, and then also learnings. So those are kind of the two categories, you know? The one is experiences, memories, stories, that type of thing. I'm sure Max got a couple. And then also, I'm curious what you guys learned in 2020. So we're recording this on, Andrew, is this the 1st of December?
It is. Today is December 1st,
Oh, cool.
2020.
Okay.
Happy December.
Yeah. But the thing is, with when you get into December, it's like it's already over. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? December's already over. It goes so fast.
I kind of feel that way even first or second week of November.
I agree.
It's
Yeah.
practically over.
I totally agree with that. Everyone's in that holiday mindset.
I literally do
And-
not remember the month of November. I feel like it
Really?
went by so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was September and October went by really slow, I felt like. But then November came around, and now it's December 1st.
So, I mean, for the business folks out there that do budgets and stuff like that, like now's the time you got to be really working on that budget.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have it done soon, it's going to be mid-January before you even get, or February, you know? You got to stay ahead of this stuff. Like, the years go by so quick. I remember this back when I was running a company. Like, the quarters go by so quick, the years go by so quick. It's like you schedule out how you want to do budgeting and have, like, quarterly priorities and all of those things, and you got to stay on top of it. Next thing you know, you're late on all of it because time just keeps going, man.
To me, I think as I'm getting older, and maybe it's a product of the industry that I'm in. Like it almost as if I'm thinking year and 2 and 3 year increments.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like what is it going to look like in 2 years, right? And if I don't do something today, the 2 year mark, it's not going to hit here. And yeah, a month is nothing.
Yep.
I mean, a month is. I mean, to me, I'm thinking, oh, well, the month is like it's tomorrow. You know.
I love the holiday time, and I'll tell you one thing that I noticed that was clear to me kind of this year, and I've thought of it before, but it was real clear this year, as I posted on Instagram, but I like being in the office the afternoon before a holiday and just being by yourself.
Yeah.
I like that because it's like you somehow you kind of feel the whole year. You kind of feel like what happened that year, and like the next day is Thanksgiving, and so it's like from 2 or 3 o'clock on the day before Thanksgiving, no one's calling you, no one's emailing something. They're all in this holiday mindset, so it's like
it's all yours.
It's all yours, yeah. And you can just kind of
and you don't have the pressure of tomorrow. I got to come back into work.
That's right.
I know that I'm going to be off
Thanksgiving,
Friday.
I love that. It's the same with Christmas and like this. But it's not really that way with like Memorial Day and July 4th and Labor Day and stuff. That's different with the summer holidays. But with the winter holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas, it's cold. Like the expectation is you're just going to be with family and hanging out and chilling and stuff. And like that kind of that day or afternoon leading into that, it's like a really good time to reflect and just enjoy, I feel like. So I did that here.
So tell me about you. You go first. Tell me about 2020. What happened?
The interviewer has become the interviewee.
Yeah, because Kent's going to wait till the very last. So I'm gonna put you on it first.
Well, there's a lot that happened for me in 2020.
A lot happened.
Yeah. We had 2 bankruptcies, companies, dealing with all of that, dealing with what's next, trying to work your way through all of that. It's extremely difficult, which leads to a favorite memory. Well, and then doing the podcast and kind of figuring out. There's so much.
You really launched this. I mean,
we launched this maybe in March. So like, the 2019 was just hell for us because trying to turn the companies around. Weren't able to do it. Filed in February and March, and then went to the beach like a week or 2 after that ended in March. And those 2 weeks, we'd never been at the beach for 2 weeks before, and those 2 weeks on the beach were glorious. So restful, like so rejuvenating. I mean, we literally just every day, like we went out and hung out on the beach with the kids.
We must have went at the same time because literally as we were at the beach, and as we were coming home from the beach, we were like listening to the news and the NBA was getting shut. Like everything was getting shut down.
Yeah, that's right.
Like it was as we were coming home.
We might have
like,
been there at the same time.
Mad crazy.
Yeah,
because we were texting. I remember we were texting like, dude, they just shut down the season.
Now too, yeah. So we left it one day early because they were shutting it down, but we had been there like 12 or 13 days. We'd never been at the beach for 2 weeks before, and this was the first time that I got the beach.
I don't know if I could be at the beach that long.
Well, that's what I would have said too, but this time we got it. But what we did different was we stayed on the beach, and this was one of those very few, very rare times where you walk into the condo that you've rented, and you're pleasantly surprised. Like, oh, wow. Well, we have this place for that kind of money?
Wow.
I don't know what led to that exactly. Maybe it was just the Lord or maybe it was COVID, but it wasn't really COVID at that point. So but the nicest thing about it was the bedroom was really big. It had its own bathroom, which led to a balcony outside. And we would literally just, be on the beach all day, soaking on the sand and the sun, just doing stuff, hanging out, reading. I read a ton. And, played with the kids some, but I like to read, So we're doing that during the day. Making something for dinner. We didn't even go out to eat except for maybe one time the entire time because COVID was starting to become a thing. So we just ate in, and then we put the kids, let them watch a movie or something in the evening. And I'd have this little routine where, because, when you're staying on the beach, you get a little sand in the house and stuff, and particularly when you have 5 kids. And I would just get this little broom, turn some music on, and sweep the balcony, sweep our entire master bedroom, the bathroom, and everything, get it all nice. And now at this point, it's like 7 o'clock, 7:30. and we'd turn a little music on, and the kids are out watching a movie, and the young ones are going to sleep, and we would read for like an hour or two.
That sounds
and then
nice.
We'd hang out, and all this time, like the window is open to the ocean, so you hear the waves rolling, and just hearing those waves, like just kind of soaking over you, it's so healing.
There's nothing more glorious than that moment.
I agree.
I'm telling you.
My perfect setting for that would be somewhere in Colorado or Montana on a mountain, snow, fire going.
Oh, wow. Not snow, but
no,
you had
snow, the fire in the fire pit.
I don't disagree. Yeah, that's
I've never been to Colorado.
At 7 o'clock in the afternoon.
That is
or
a
in
great
the evening,
scene.
Cause,
yes, that is a great scene. The thing with that scene though is in Colorado in the evening, because of the altitude and everything.
It doesn't have to be Colorado. It could be.
Well,
Montana.
Montana probably doesn't have the altitude, but that's the one thing with like when you're skiing in Colorado, you think like you're going to come off the ski slope and like have this great evening, and you do, but you get very tired very quick.
Do you?
Yeah, something about the altitude, and then you were out in the cold. So that is a great scene. Anyhow, the beach was a highlight. So then coming home from the beach, I just started this podcast because at that point it was like there was so much uncertainty in our life. You know, what can we do next? What are our options? What's the leftover residue from these companies kind of splash back on us personally? Like what could we even get into? And we just, had to have a season where we would decide not to decide and keep our options open. So that's why I started the podcast, was just a way to try to at least attempt to contribute some value to the world. And I mean, I'd done it before and always loved it. So that's why we got back into the podcast. But I'll tell you a favorite thing from 2020. Diesel, our pig.
Oh, dude, I've been there.
Dude, this guy is awesome.
Okay, I saw that on Instagram.
This pig is awesome.
And I looked at Lauren and I said, they got a pig.
We got a pig.
It's so funny that you just say that because I don't know what made me do it, but yesterday I was looking at your Instagram page and I thought about the video of the pig running in the backyard.
Yeah.
That thing is fast.
Dude, that thing is so fast. It's shocking to me. Honestly, that pig at peak speed might beat me. I don't know how long he could run that fast, but he is lightning quick.
I don't know why I thought about it, but I went to your Instagram page to look at that video because that thing shoom.
Yes, and you can tell in that Instagram video, which is just at Can't Lapp on my Instagram, is the pig sort of takes off and you think he's already running.
And then
he kicks it up like 2 gears. Like he's running pretty fast, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's like lightning speed.
Have you seen it?
100%.
Oh.
What do the kids think?
Kids love them. Yeah, so we got it for the kid. Actually, the truth is we got it for Mariana. So I think she's always wanted a pig. I don't know why that is.
Okay, so it is a pet. It's not later going to become food.
I mean, you keep your options open. No, it's a pet. I couldn't eat Diesel at this point. But it's a pet. He's about 2.5 months old. And we got him from Trey Suey at Emmanuel. And Trey teaches some, like a homeschool co-op. And he bought this pig as like a project. And they were working through Charlotte's Web or something like that. And so he bought the pig as like a...
Wait. So Trey bought this.
I'm
going to have to text him
just
after
to go
this
through.
Oh, you know Trey.
Yeah, I know Trey.
Yeah.
I was actually just texting him a few minutes ago.
No way.
But so he bought this pig.
Trey bought
just
the pig
for
as a science
Charlotte's
project.
Web.
For Charlotte's Web that he was teaching.
That is dedication to your craft.
What do you call that when you bring in? It's an object lesson. That's what we used to call it at school. Like, so he bought this pig as like an object lesson to work through Charlotte's Web to keep the students' attention. I think he had it for like only 2 or 3 weeks, but it was in a cage a lot and whatever. But so we got it, and like when you get a pig like this, it's a mini pig. Now, it's not a teacup pig, okay? Teacup pigs are a little bit smaller, but this is a mini pig. We don't know how big he's going to get yet. They say he should only get 25, 30 pounds, but he's already 25, 30 pounds. Depends a lot on how much you feed him.
That's still
but he's not going to get big and tall, but he's going to get probably fatter and heavier and stuff. So Mariana grew up right up the hill from a pig farm. And these are not pet pigs. Like there's a pig farm that, we'd use to raise. But at this point, remember, she's Amish. So she and her siblings, a couple of them anyway, would get these baby pigs when the pigs had babies and would like dress them up. Like they would put, whatever, dresses or shirts and stuff. I don't know what they put on these pigs, but they would dress up these pigs.
Little tutus and
maybe. So she kind of had this as a background, and then all these years later, she kind of had in the back of her mind. I remember we had friends that got a teacup pig. I think it was teacup pig a couple years ago, and they lived in Franklin, and they loved the pig, but they only had it for a couple of weeks, and it didn't really fit into their family for some reason, and I don't know if they didn't really cross that bridge or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so we just thought, that's maybe one day she'd want a pig, but we didn't really chase it that hard. Well, a couple of months ago, her older sister in Pennsylvania got a pet pig for their family. Their family's a little older than ours.
Mm-hmm.
Their kids are older, and they love that pig. Like, that pig's just such a great pet. So Trey, out of the blue. So now here's Mariana, who's always wanted a pet pig, used to play with kids, with little pigs. Sister gets one a couple of months ago. Now it's starting to trigger, like, whoa, what if we had a pet pig? That type of thing. Out of the blue, I kid you not, out of the blue, Trey texts and says, I got this pig I'm looking to get rid of. It's cheap. So that was all it took. So
cheap as in free?
Cheap as in less than you would pay normally. So we made a decision within an hour. So she comes literally I think 3 hours later, Trey was going to be here he and I needed to meet and sign something or whatever. And so he brought the pig a few hours later, and boom, we had this pig at our house. And he just fits in with the family, man. He's just a really great pet. He's getting more and more comfortable with us. He sleeps in the house.
Mm-hmm.
We gave him a bath the first night. Give him a bath probably every other night, and he likes baths. But he doesn't like to be picked up. So
I hate to drink all your Taylor.
I got a guy.
hey,
I
he
can
brought
get
it,
more.
bro.
You sure?
Yes.
I can tap on the tray.
If you want that, drink it.
Please do.
I brought it so that we can drink it.
Okay.
Not the whole bottle now, but
Yeah, don't worry. I won't drink it.
So the pig doesn't like to be picked up. When you pick him up, he squeals. And have you ever heard a pig squeal?
Yes.
Okay, they sound like they're being killed. They really do. So we kind of have to figure out how to work with that. But the first night he comes in, we had blankets in the corner in the boys' bedroom, so we're going to sleep in the boys' bedroom. They have a hardwood floor in there, so it's good for that. So we had blankets in the corner. We had his cage, but we got rid of the cage. Now he doesn't need that. But outside of the cage was just a little nest of blankets. And somehow he kind of knew that's where he's supposed to sleep. So we'd heard pigs like music, right? So here's the pig. Of course, there's this new pet. This is the first night.
He's serenading his pig.
So Diesel
incredible.
gets a bath. Lincoln gives him a bath, which is really good for Lincoln. Lincoln's 10 right now, and sometimes you're dealing with the 5-year-old, and sometimes you're dealing with the 15-year-old, and there's a whole lot of drama in between. It's a tough time of life. And so, but having a pet and kind of having Lincoln kind of make this his thing really was good for Lincoln. There was a few day stretch where it was noticeable, his behavior was good because he was he had something to take care of.
Right.
So this is great. So Lincoln gave him a bath, which was quite an experience because he was squealing and getting in and out of the bathtub. And he's kind of scared. He's never been in our house before. You know what I mean? So he comes into this bedroom. We're all kind of there. And he walks over, and we turn Snow Patrol on the Sonos.
Snow Patrol. Classic.
Oh, I love Snow Patrol. If you've not heard of Snow Patrol.
What is
You know one of their songs.
British
There's no
boy
way.
band.
There's no way you don't know Chasing Cars.
Okay, first off, I'm very disconnected to modern society. No, I don't know.
I don't know how it goes from there. But
I love Snow Patrol.
The guy from the music industry is you don't know Snow Patrol.
yeah, Snow Patrol is it's a British boy band, and they have great harmony. And
Chasing Cars was their biggest song.
yeah,
But they're still.
I'm sure
they're
if I
still a good
heard.
band.
I'm sure if I heard it.
You would know.
people need to check out Chocolate as well. It has a really good
That's
melody.
a good one.
And I'm very happy that you know about Snow Patrol. So we turned that on the Sonos, and I kid you not, within probably 5 seconds, he just kind of stood still and listened to the music a little bit, just kind of stood there. And then he kind of walked over to his blankets and laid down. I'm not even kidding.
That's incredible.
And when he went to sleep, you
That's
just kind of
incredible.
pet him under his right arm, right where you'd shoot him if you were trying to
If you were putting down a pig, right? Think about right there. Think about right there. You're safe, little buddy.
But for context, have you ever deer hunted?
Yeah, you're right there
Like,
behind the shuttle bug.
I have
You
put
know
down
where to shoot
pigs.
a
I
deer.
have put down pigs.
Dude, I'm so sorry. That's got to be awful. But that's where he likes
They're
to be
like
petted.
500. I mean, they're hogs. I mean,
So pigs like to be petted under their belly and stuff because if you pet them on top, that's where they get attacked. So they don't like to be petted on top of their back because that's bad things happen when things are getting on top of them. But if you pet them on their belly, they like it. Great experience, man. But last night, hey, did you see the video from last night I put on Instagram too?
I'm trying to think which one was
He's literally standing in the kitchen, and I'm petting him to sleep standing up.
it. Yes. Okay, that's what it was. I saw that
I was
video.
petting under his neck, and his eyes closed, and he's literally standing.
Was that you singing in the video, or was that something in the background?
Well, I don't know which video you're talking about.
The one where you're
wait.
you're
Did
petting
you
him.
sing to the big period? I want to know that.
That's
No, I don't. I don't sing to the pig. I was talking to him.
okay. Were you talking to him?
I was talking to him, but I wasn't singing. So anyhow, highlight
Debatable.
pig. All right, what do you got, Alan? What's a favorite memory experience story?
I
We'll
mean,
get to learnings a bit later. How about that?
by far, the biggest thing that happened this year for us is we adopted our second son,
Ooh,
which was awesome.
congratulations.
Yeah,
Cheers to that.
yeah. Cheers to that. It was a huge emotional roller coaster for sure. I mean, because let's see, this is December. I know this is terrible. And so last month we actually finally got to finalize everything. So the way it all works is they have to be in your home for 6 months before you can finalize everything.
Because you went through like a non-traditional adoption.
Yeah, we went
route, right?
not.
I want to clarify that.
The first our first son, our oldest son Finley, we went through an agency, the whole 9 yards. This one was a private adoption, which means we literally he's 2, right? 2.5. So we adopted him directly from his birth parents.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
Which is easier in a way. COVID made it a little tricky, but what made it such an emotional roller coaster is without getting into all of the details, we had talked to the birth mom. You know, would you be open to this? The original response was absolutely not under any circumstance at all. You know, without again divulging too much of his the story. The one thing led to the next, which led to the next, and she went to prison kind of thing, and randomly just one day the grandmother came to the house and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you," and she's agreed. So
was that late spring, early summer?
Late spring. So 6 months from November. I don't know what that is. Month 5.
Mm-hmm. May.
Yeah, May.
Okay.
Yeah, something around May. And so April, May is kind of that transition piece. So he was living with his grandmother and his 2 brothers and his sister. And so over the course of, a month and a half, we, slowly, like, he stayed at our house a little bit more and then their house. And then, yeah, I mean, COVID kind of threw a little bit because both of the parents were in prison. So we had to get an attorney to represent them, and COVID, again, it was a little odd.
What do you mean you had to get an attorney to represent them?
Almost all adoptions happen through DHS. So out of 100 adoptions, I would say 95 of them go through DHS because they lost a child or something. Mm-hmm. So the birth mother was fine, and she agreed, and she was not quite there. She was in a local jail, and so it was easier to get to him. However, we had to go to the birth father, and he was in a actual penitentiary. And they every time we'd come to them, be like, "Hey, we're trying to get this thing, the adoption," and they were like, "Call DHS or DCS," and they're like, "DCS is not involved." And the only way we could, because of COVID, they wasn't letting anybody in except for their legal representation.
Oh,
so
see.
we actually had to pay for him to have legal representation so that he could get into the prison to get the signatures
I see.
taken care
Yep.
of, if that makes sense.
Yep. So that happens midsummer then?
Mhm.
When does that all happen? And by the way, when did you first approach or ask the mom about adoption? When did you first kind of broach that?
The first time, last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like-
Before everything before happened in her life and her
Okay.
circumstances.
Like middle part of the year or the end of the year?
Probably toward the end.
So
in the
that
last year.
all sort of transpired relatively quickly then.
It really did. I mean, it literally went from absolutely not under no circumstance, he's my child, to, okay, I'm ready,
Wow. Wow.
some things happened, and I think, his older sister, kind of helped out with that and talked to the birth mom and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, went from that to him being in our home full time within a month, And it's been a very interesting dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a hard dynamic in a lot of ways because it's interesting with Finley. There's not really been very much contact. So even though it's an open adoption, it's been virtually a closed adoption. Except for we're friends on Facebook and things like that, and talk to him. And this was more of we want to come see him and. And seeing the family multiple times a week and things like that. So,
and that's tricky because now he's your boy.
Yeah,
and
now
there's
exactly
such thing as boundaries, and those
yeah.
boundaries are being kind of trampled on or taken advantage of, or
yes,
disregarded
altogether,
right?
In many cases, and so we're learning how to have conversations in which yes, but there's boundaries and there has to be clear, we are his family now and trying to navigate, yes, he is your grandson and yes, he is your brother, but he is part of our family. And a lot of times it was a little difficult. A lot difficult in times because you have to set those hard boundaries when no boundaries are currently in place. Right.
Right.
And that can be a little tough. That can be a little tough. And
I'm sure a lot tough.
Because, at the same time, for the health of him and his mental health, and okay, you have to establish we are your family now, right? And whenever those lines are blurred, that can be a little tricky.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So
more than a little tricky.
Yeah.
So when did he become officially a Dixon?
He become officially a Dixon the 1st of November.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
yeah.
man.
So
that's a big one. Wow.
It is. And it's exciting.
So
Sure. So we did that and we moved out. We moved out of our house and got an apartment and I remember when COVID started right after when was COVID here, I guess, when we did this?
I think COVID was here when we did this.
It was.
It was
we
here.
talked about
So
it.
it had to be in March when we
At
did
the
it.
time that we did the podcast, COVID was ravaging Italy. I remember talking about that.
Yes.
Yeah. And then it just sort of moved on, and now we can't seem to get on top of it here.
Yeah.
But COVID was a thing.
Yeah, COVID was a thing, and I remember sitting down with the team and being like, guys, we're going to be okay. We're going to make it through this. And next thing you know, business doubled overnight practically,
Wow.
It's crazy.
which, we're very blessed to have that happen. When a lot of businesses are going out of business or something happened, we're literally doubling in sales and, started a new company, an investment company, and move into an apartment. It was just a crazy 2020.
Yeah, that's a lot going on, man.
We adopted our son, started a new company, started a new career with a new, the real estate at a new company there, moved into a new house, an apartment. It was a busy, freaking year.
That's so much.
Yeah, a busy year.
Are you comfortable saying that part of the reason behind moving to the apartment was to create a little extra space?
100%. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Which we knew. It was,
I already knew that.
We knew it was time anyway.
Yeah.
We had wanted to move out. We knew it was about time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But things with the family dynamic and everything and the lack of boundary. We knew it was for the health of the family and the health of our Jacks. I don't think
That's his name, Jax.
Jax, yeah.
That's an awesome name.
Strong name, 2 X's.
Jax Dixon. That is the name of the next legendary country singer right
and it's
there.
literally
wow.
Dixon.
Oh my
Dixon.
gosh, you're
that
not
is the
even
next
kidding.
greatest era country
I'm
artist.
It is. Does he have any vocal chops at all?
I will say this: he is more athletic than Finley is.
Maybe he could be a drummer.
It is so funny.
I love that he mentioned athleticism, and your first thing was drummer.
Literally,
basketball,
it's almost like a Will Ferrell movie. He goes up and Jax is. He'll jump up on top of the chair. He's like, Dad, watch this. And he jumps off sticks the landing perfect, perfect 10. And then Finley is like, he's 3 years older. He's like, Dad, watch this. And he face plants onto the ground. You're like,
some kids just have it, seriously.
Because it's so funny because Finley is literally the biggest 5-year-old. He's he's
a big boy.
bigger than his 7 and 8-year-old friends.
Wow.
And they we wrestle, and it legit he hits me. It's like a brick wall hitting me at 5, right? He's 63 pounds, solid. I could see him being a linebacker.
I was about to say that's your linebacker, right?
Legit. He hits me. I'm like, dude, that freaking hurt. Stop.
Yeah.
And Jax is small for his age, so. But Jax is more athletic than he is.
Hey,
I'm
Finley might have Drummond in his future too. You
I'm
never know.
just, it's so fun, but it's man, it's just it's been crazy with all the COVID craziness, and then so many life changes going on in 2020.
That is a lot.
It's
isn't it cool to see the personality differences though in your boys? Every kid is their own.
100%.
They're all just different.
100%.
In some little way.
Yeah.
That's a big one, man. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Mac, what was one of your favorite memories from 2020?
Favorite memories? I don't know.
Or experiences?
Experiences, I think
you also
I'm
got to
more...
give us an update on the cop thing, too.
I
at some
will.
point.
Well, that's part of it.
Exactly.
2020 has been hard for a lot of people, but so I'm blessed. It just really hasn't been hard for Carmen and I. That's my wife.
Good. I'm happy to hear that.
And we, Chris Stapleton just came out with a new album, and
I heard that.
I
didn't hear it at all yet, though.
I, for one, love that man.
Yeah,
he is probably my favorite musician. But there's a line in one of his songs that says, "I'm so thankful to be working when so many people aren't." And I've been thinking about that phrase for the last couple months about how my wife and I, we just moved to Nashville back in August of last year. We have progressed in our jobs. We've made more money this year than we ever have in our entire lives put together and separately. We've had, I'm doing something that I love. She's doing something that she loves, and she's on her way to, she wants to be a labor and delivery nurse, but right now she's in postpartum, so she's one step closer. And we're in a church. We became members of Manual, and man,
I feel like it's funny. I'm like, everywhere I turn around, maybe it's because I'm hanging out with you all the time, but it's like, Trey, all these people are part of Manuel, and I'm like the only one that's not part
so
of it.
I think that means
come on, bro. 28-minute drive from your house to Emmanuel.
Come over.
We drove it a ton. Have you visited, by the way?
Yeah, 3 or 4 times.
Not with us there.
Yeah.
Within this past year, have you visited?
No.
Not
Okay,
this
then.
year.
Which, with everything going on
Doesn't
with
count.
COVID, let's get past that. But then come visit again. Let's all sit together.
It's
That'd be
I've
fun.
probably been. I bet we've been 3 or 4 times. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Because y'all live out in Mount Juliet, is that
We
right?
do, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. But anyways, I don't know, man. It's been an interesting year, and it's been a busy year. All I do is work now. That's all I feel like I ever do. But man, I'm in a job that I love. My wife's in a job that she loves. We're happy in our marriage. We live in a great city, and we have a great group of friends that we've met in the last year. And I really think that just the experience of 2020 with all of the hardship, what's going on, I mean, God's just really blessed me.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't have asked for a better year through this.
That's wonderful to hear, man.
So I was thinking about that today when you sent us a text message, kind of what we're talking about. And I was like, man, I don't know of just one single experience, but just this whole year. Obviously, I miss big gatherings. I miss concerts.
Yep.
Like, I miss all that stuff.
Yep.
But that's so little compared to what other people are missing.
That's
like
true.
jobs.
Yeah.
You know, they've had family they've lost to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost feel guilty saying what I am saying because it really has been a good year for me and my wife.
Yep.
And just that experience of growing in a job that so if I had to pinpoint, the best experience for me this year is becoming a full-fledged police officer on my own, independent, like doing my job.
Mm-hmm.
It's been so surreal. I'm 24 years old in a grown-up job, making my own decisions. And it's weird, but it's also freeing at the same time. Like, I don't know, this step into, I know I'm still young, but this kind of step into adulthood,
Of course.
this last year and a half, 2 years has been kind of nice.
Yep.
Realizing like what the Lord's going to do, just we're ready to have kids, so we're starting.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a big experience that we've been trying to have kids. So I don't know, man. This whole year has just been a good experience.
Well,
and I know that sounds weird in the midst of like a global pandemic, and
it doesn't sound weird at all. And I can see the temptation for you to feel a little bit guilty about saying that, but you need to say it. You know what I mean? Like, that's your experience. And by the way, just because you're having a really great year doesn't mean you can't have empathy for those that don't. Like that's why we have empathy. Yeah, empathy doesn't mean like I am in your exact same situation whereby I understand what you're also going through. I mean, that's not empathy. That's just that's resonating basically, or sharing an experience. Empathy is when the experiences are different and you still can feel compassion for other people that maybe don't have it as good as you have it right now. And I think empathy and compassion are really great traits to have as a cop. So, but you don't need to like be shy about sharing your experience because you had such a great year, you know. Because we need to hear from all, like because I think there's a lot of people that have had a great year. I'll just be honest. I mean, it's not that we haven't all dealt with some difficulties with COVID and stuff, but I mean, I know a few people that are having their best year ever. Like you're probably.
I really think this is like our best year ever. Like I don't, you know, obviously my wife's not here, and we've kind of talked about it, but 2020 really has been probably the best year I've ever had.
That's great.
It's man, I can't say this enough. I freaking love the job that I do.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
That's
What do you love so much about it?
Man, I don't know. You can be nervous and scared out of your mind, but for some reason I'm still doing it and I don't get it.
Okay.
It's just weird. I'm an adrenaline like junkie. I love it, man. Like not knowing what's on the other side of a door when we're about to kick it down. Yeah, that's a blast. I can't explain it. You got you got your guns out. You're about to kick down a door, and you think you know what's on the other side, but you really don't. And
but better not be kicking down doors because of some drugs in there.
No,
don't be doing that crap.
No.
He serves the public.
That's not my role.
We need to change the public. If we're
but
do that.
then at
we
the
can't
same
get onto
time,
him for that.
Although I fully assume you either have or you will have. I mean, because that's the law, and your job is not to make the law. Your job is to uphold
and
the
enforce
law.
the law.
Exactly.
So I'll take my opinions.
I know we're going to get into like life lessons in a little bit, but that's one of the things I've really had a hard time doing. Removing my emotion from enforcing the law.
Your responsibility.
Right.
So not in the sense of becoming a robot, not in the sense of becoming some emotionalist, like narcissist, cynical person, but I have a job to do, and I have to do it no matter how I feel about you or other person or how much I want to help you out. Now there is room for me to work around and the discretion of an officer. And but we can talk about that more later.
Well, no, but on that, the thing is, if you don't do it, they're just going to have someone else do it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's so I arrested a girl the other day. She wanted us to give her a break, and I was like, well, I mean, I can't. You have a felony warrant, and you've been lying to us the last 15 minutes about what your name was. I know who you are, and I know you have the warrant, but you continually keep lying to me. Now, whether I want to be gracious to you or not, I mean, I've got to take you to jail, and I've given you double-digit chances to tell me what your real name is. So now I'm going to charge you with, criminal impersonation. Because she lied about being a real person. We looked that real person up, but she was not a bad person. She was going through a hard time. She had a kid, and she just got caught up in bad stuff. But I can't just ignore that.
Right.
We had a good talk after I got her down to booking, and she was just talking about how she was going through a lot of hard stuff. And I was like, you just got to stop making certain decisions that put you in these bad situations. And you know what they are, and she knew what they are. I was like, you got to get away from those things.
Yes.
And so I think also getting to meet a lot of people in just hard times. I think this year's been particularly hard for a lot of people, and just kind of getting to talk to them, see where they're at. And that's a good thing about my job. I do get to talk to people. They're initially upset when they're going to jail, but halfway down, they kind of loosen up a little bit, and we get to talk, human to human. And it's usually, I've never had a single person that I've taken to jail take anything personal. And we've always come to a conclusion by the time that I'm handing them over, we're on good terms.
Well, I think the huge thing about that is, we need good people like yourself that are in power, right? There's a lot of times you hear of people that are in power that are not fundamentally. Not that they're not good people, but they're not good people, right?
Right.
I mean, to be honest, I think you need people that are genuine, that are going to be able to be fair and truthful, but that are also going to be, enforce what is right.
I totally agree.
You have to have that, I believe, to have a society function correctly.
Well, and I think a great example of that is Sunday night, really Monday morning. I work a DUI grant usually every Sunday night. After,
DUI grant?
So, yeah,
What's that?
I'll work my regular shift, and then I'll work overtime for about 3.5, 4 hours. It's a federally funded program. I'm pretty sure it's federally funded, but it's just it's a highway safety.
You can burp
just
straight
burped
into
right
the
into
mic.
that
Like,
mic.
go ahead. Andrew doesn't care.
Mute that out, Andrew.
No editing on our show.
No editing here.
But it's just something to keep down, DUIs and
Okay.
fatality. It's just something to basically enforce safety.
Mhm.
And so I didn't get a DUI, but I arrested someone for DUI, and he was pretty upset, and rightfully so. Man, he was just telling me some things just about his year, and man, it really sounds like it was a crappy year for him. It really does. He'd been arrested like 15 years ago on like some weed charge, nothing like crazy, and he was a nice guy. I mean, he was upset, he was a little angry, but right then and there, I can't do anything, right? But I said, man, you've been cool with me, and like, I can help you down the road. Like, we go to court one day, and we can work stuff out. The DAs are very generous. They're willing to work with people, and I was like, man, just stick with it. I'll see you our day in court, and it's just people, they think about the front end. It's always worse than usually sometimes what the outcome is.
Oh, okay.
And so you can always be, you know what I mean? Like there's ways to be empathetic with people because you down the road, you can help them out. Right then and there, I've got to charge you with this. But you know what I mean? I've had cases get thrown out that I've been like, look, man, this is what's happened. The DA was like, what do you want to throw it out? And I'm like, yeah, let's throw it out.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you've got
let's
some
drop
say in
charges.
that.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It just depends. Especially depending on how many times it's happened and all that kind of stuff. If it's a first-time offender, I think that our legal system really does give the benefit of the doubt sometimes.
Oh, yeah?
I think that's impartial to some extent. Obviously, there's some things that can go down a different road, but I do think that there is room to be gracious in our legal system.
Yeah,
and I've seen it.
Yeah, that's great to hear because we didn't hear a whole lot about that in 2020. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, too,
it's been a wild one in that category.
It's been crazy. And yeah, we could talk more about that too. But I was going to make the same point you did, Alan, which is I'm glad you're a cop, Mac, because if there's a few cops beating down my door at night, like I would hope that you're one of them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I hope that I'm not beating down your door
and not just. I hope so too,
because it's going to be a bad night for me.
Yeah, but not just because you're my friend, but because you're a respectable, honorable, empathetic young man. And so that's the type of cops that I would want beating down my door.
I think at the core, I think that at the core, all of us wanted, if nothing else, we want to be treated fairly. Mm-hmm. Like I think about if you're in a position of leadership and you have to give bad news or something, you have to have uncomfortable conversations or whatever that may be. I think that when your people know for a fact that you are fair, that even if they don't like necessarily the outcome, they'll at least respect it, right? I mean, like you're talking about, hey, I've got to make this charge, or I've got to let you go, or hey, we have to work on X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
I think we all, at the end of the day, would just want to be treated fairly.
Yes, I agree.
And when we know that the person on the other side, though we may not agree, they can at least acknowledge like they're fair about it and they got good intentions behind it. I think that plays a much bigger factor in the long term.
Well, I think that's a great point, and I think that's what that feeling of fairness and unfairness, I think that's what was triggering a lot of the racial unrest in 2020, was there was this feeling, either real or perceived, where there was an unfairness happening. And that feeling of unfairness was the spark, or that was the kindle and the spark maybe.
One thing that I've made a habit of doing is always explaining to the person that I'm taking into custody why I'm doing it. Whether that's right at the initial set or when we get down to booking, I always make it a point to be like, look, this is why this is happening, to show them the line of thinking.
Yeah.
And usually people come out and they go, you know what? I actually understand why that. I know that you're doing your job. And while I'm upset about the situation, when you explain to people, like, okay, this is why I'm arresting you, this is why, et cetera, they tend to actually be more fair with you as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're explaining to them why you're doing this and you're showing them that, well, I'm being fair because I'm doing my job and what the law says, they tend to, give that back.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And I think too, like, sometimes when you give someone grace, it has an even greater impact. Example, 2 weeks ago when my sister was in town, we were hiking somewhere down the Natchez Trace, coming home. We were going to go back to my brother's house, but at this point, it's just me and my wife and our kids in my minivan. I'm coming up from Leapers Fork, heading back to our house, kind of on one of those back roads. I forget which one it was, Hillsborough Pike or something like that. Was not watching the speed. Was going a little too fast, and there was a cop, sitting there taking radar, which is very, I think,
very rare
in
this area.
Yeah, that's what I felt like, and I'd never seen him there before, and I was not paying attention. I was legit not trying to speed, but wasn't paying attention, and so he pulls me over. I haven't been pulled over for anything in years, like honestly, like years, which I'm grateful for, because when I was 16, I got like a bunch of speeding tickets, 16 to 18, a few, and then like nothing since, like nothing, and I'm like, oh man. So, we're having a hard time finding the registration in the van and all of this. And the guy was just the nicest guy. And he's like, man, I see you got kids in here, and I could give you like a $500 fine. And I know that's probably going to really hurt your Christmas. And so if you wouldn't mind, put the registration slip back in the van and slow down and let us off. And you know what? Like, that changed my behavior more than if I had gotten a $500 fine.
Right.
If I had gotten the $500 fine or any amount of fine, it's like, all right, I was going a little too fast. He's doing his job. I can't fault him for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not happy about having to pay some money because I wasn't paying attention. And am I going to slow down? Of course. He just got a fine. But that's not going to last as long as, hey, bro, slow down. And like that, I remember, this was a few weeks ago, and I'm going to remember that a few weeks from now. Like, that guy gave me some grace and let me off. So I'm going to return the favor and drive reasonably. You know what I mean? Like, 8 over, not 20. Like, you can drive a little over. Like, there's.
Did you just say you were going 20 over?
It was probably 15. Yeah,
You can be arrested at 15 over.
Really?
Yeah, it's considered
Is
reckless driving.
Is 85 on the interstate considered arrestable?
Well, if it's in a 55-mile-an-hour zone.
No, I'm talking about a 70. I mean, it's 15 over.
I don't know. I think there'd be a little more leeway.
Okay.
I think
Just make it.
I'll have to.
Just
I need to look at I got to get better with my traffic laws. I know very basic, because I'm not a traffic car, so I don't deal with a lot of traffic-based crimes. Now, I enforce them if I see something crazy, but I don't know if in traffic laws, whether like interstate 15 over is the same on Charlotte Pike 15 over.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And here's okay. I think a deeper point to all this too is okay. You mentioned earlier the feeling of unfairness that's going on in our culture and the racial conversations that are going on. I think a lot of times, at least many times, what happens is the unrest continues. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, is when we refuse to listen to the other side, right? Like when we refuse to, like, here's who I am, this is what I'm doing, and we don't have that sense of empathy, no matter which side of the aisle you're on. I think that just continues to push to the sides.
Yes.
And I'm always having debates on both sides. Like whether, I'm always, I consider myself a conservative person, but I think I debate and argue with my family, which are, conservatives much more than I do with a lot of times.
I find myself in the same camp.
Sure.
Come from obviously central Mississippi, heavy conservative, bleeding red and blue. I would consider myself conservative, but I find I disagree with my family on a lot of things. And have debates with them.
Do you guys not find that there's a big difference, not just in where in America you might live, but also a big difference between urban and rural? Because I feel like if
100%.
you live in the country, almost no matter where you live in the out in the country, I don't really care at this point which state you live in, but if you kind of live in the country, you have a harder time seeing the viewpoint from those that live in or near a city. And if you live in or near a city, sometimes you have a harder time understanding where the country folk come from.
Yes.
I kind of feel like that's a bigger differentiation in this country than which state you're from.
I think that is true, and I think that when both sides when they dig their heels in and say, "No, I'm right," boom, boom, they draw that hard line, and that just exacerbates the problem.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And I think when we're unable to stop and say, you know what, maybe part of what I'm thinking is right, and part of what I'm thinking is wrong. I think when we kind of have that, if we can come to the point where we have that attitude, I think more productive conversations are going to happen in our society.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I just think like that's where an understanding of your culture becomes very important, because if you live in the country, you have a particular sort of realm of experiences and interactions that you don't have when you're in the city. When you're in the city, you don't have the country one.
And whether you hate it or not, that's why the Electoral College is so important. Because of that very reason. Now, I don't want to go into politics debate, but because of the differences of life, I mean, I've had both. I've lived in a big city like I do now, and I've lived out in the middle of nowhere. Life is just different.
Yeah, it is. And
it's very different.
And there's something about the human experience that we tend to look at what's around us in our personal experience and assume it's that way everywhere and for everyone, and it's just not.
100%.
And this is why it's so great to travel. Like Andrew McGarity was on here yesterday just making this point. He was making this point with traveling with kids, that travel is learning. And I love that point. It's so concise and accurate.
Absolutely.
Travel is learning. Like when you travel internationally with your kids, they are learning. And you see that they do music differently in Africa. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And they dress differently in China. And sometimes the first reaction of like a kid or even an adult who's experiencing that is like, the reaction sounds crazy to say, but the reaction can be like, oh, that's a little weird. Like they're different. No, well, they're not necessarily different. They're different from you.
Yeah.
You know, you have a particular culture and way of music and everything.
You're different.
But to them, you're also different. Yeah. So like zooming out a little bit and understanding, okay, this is my experience and my thoughts and my beliefs, and they are that way. Maybe they're not even all wrong, but they are that way because that's my experience. Maybe that's not how it is for everyone else. Like that's where we need that understanding and actually to like think critically and understand and appreciate other cultures and ways of life and other human experiences.
Well, I think what you were saying, the conversations as far as race goes and just the tension we have right now, if you take both of those together, traveling is learning. I think traveling and exposure to other cultures also reduces racism as a whole.
Right.
Because you have exposure. 100%. Because, I don't know, just think of the way the human brain works and the way you teach a dog through like giving treats and positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, all that kind of stuff. Think if you only have a particular experience with a certain type of people group and it's negative.
Yeah.
And just you never leave your hometown and the only experience you have is negative, that could lead. I'm not saying it leads to racism, but that's a great quote. Like traveling is learning.
You got to understand.
And there's so many things that could just be positive from traveling. Like, but
totally agree. And I think too, the, back to what you were saying, Mac, about, you said you're 24, which is younger than I remembered. But I think the last time you mentioned your age, it surprised me too. But
I was married right before I just turned 21 is when I got married. I literally.
So you were 20 when you got married?
21.
Oh, you were? So you
I
were
turned
the
21
oldest.
a week and a half before I got married.
I mean, that's like almost the exact age I was. I think I was still 20.
I got married in October at 20. And then my birthday was in January. So it was right before 21.
Okay, right. So y'all got younger married than I did.
I was married when I was 20 and 2 weeks later turned 21.
And I
so very
don't
similar.
regret it.
Oh, I don't regret it at all.
Married.
I'll be honest. I don't
I will
regret
say,
it at all.
I do wish we'd waited. My wife and I are open with this conversation.
Sorry, but
no, look.
That just caught me off guard a little.
No.
Yeah, I wish we would have waited.
No, look. I mean, we, and this is not something we haven't talked about. My wife and I are very open about it. We both say we wish we'd have waited till he was 24, 25.
I could see it either way. You know what I mean? I don't think there's a right and a wrong.
And I mean, look, we made it, obviously. But I think, at 20, you have no idea who you are.
Yeah.
And, I think you really need to have a sense of who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, you can make it, but I think that it just makes life a lot easier.
I can see.
But
I can see that argument, and like I think it works either way. Like I don't think everyone should get married at 20.
No.
So I think where you could see like me at 24, 25, like I sort of assume that's how our kids are going to be, like. But I don't. Who knows? They may never get married.
Right.
But I don't regret getting married at 20. For me, I think Mariana was, I almost want to say she was still 18, but that doesn't sound right. She was 18 or 19. Very young. Like, I remember my
Lauren
grandma
was 19.
That is so young to get married. Let's
My
just
wife
be
was
honest.
going to be turning 22 that year when we got married. She's older.
Oh,
than
yeah.
I am.
Okay.
I'm into older women, yeah.
But I think, but I think I'll just say this though, to make your point, Mac. Like it can absolutely work to get married at 19 and 20. Can absolutely work. It worked for us. It worked for you. It's not for everyone.
I'm not
it's
saying
not
that
for
it can't
everyone.
work.
No. I agree
know
with
that's not
what you're
you were
saying. There are a lot of people.
I also
now,
agree with that.
I'm not trying to be prideful, but there are a lot of people that I know that were the same age that I'm like, you definitely should not be getting married at that age.
Right.
Now, was I kind of dumb and still young? And I still am a little dumb and young, but I think my wife and I, we both had full-time jobs and going through college. I'd been working since I was 16. I grew up in a family that just was, you work for the things you want. I didn't have a hard life, so I didn't like grow up like teaching myself, but I think my parents taught me valuable lessons that I felt like I was a little more mature than most of the guys or, females at
That's
our
a
age.
thing.
Both of us, I felt like
That's
we were
a
like
thing.
that. We were working, we knew what we wanted, and so we went after that. But we have grown a lot together into the people we are now. We're definitely different. 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I had no idea I'd be a police officer.
Yep.
I was about to graduate college to go to seminary to become a pastor.
I love that.
And now I'm a cop.
Yeah.
Like, I still have buddies in my fraternity. They're like, what the frick is Mac doing? Like, why is he a police officer? And they're like, we have no idea.
Yeah.
It's just some people still don't get it.
But that idea of changing and growing together, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
And so when someone's like, I'm having trouble with my spouse because they're just not the same person I married 15 years ago. Well, no crap. Thank God they're not.
Why would you ever
None of
expect
us
them
are.
to be?
Yeah.
They shouldn't.
100%.
They shouldn't be.
No,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
They shouldn't be. Now, I think where it gets wonky is when one person grows and the other person doesn't track with that growth or change or development or even just change. Even if it's not positive, it's just change. And you have one person that's changing, the other person is not resonating with that change, not being aware of it, not changing not changing together. That's where you can run into problems. And like then you look back and realize, man, I married this person 10 years ago for these reasons. That's different now, and I don't even know who they are now. I mean, that's a huge red flag.
Somebody asked both
But
of
growing
you.
together is fine.
For me in my marriage, I think I was the one that had to grow up a little bit more and grow more into who I was. Did you guys find the same
100%.
for you? And
100%.
I just, and both of us are growing, and I've seen my wife grow a lot, but I really think that I had to do more of it than she did. Do you both find that?
That's me for sure. I don't know about Alan.
We have this conversation a lot. I think that
This is a reoccurring thing.
And look, I mean,
I wish we would have waited.
No.
I
I mean,
more.
we actually had a full conversation. We did a podcast. What, I don't know how long like an hour long.
Midsummer,
yeah. I mean, about this very conversation because we have not hidden the fact that our marriage has not been a smooth road.
Yeah.
Andrew, can you look up what episode number that was, by the way, while he continues?
Yeah, and because we're open about it, not because again we tell people don't get married at 20.
Yep.
But we're like, for us, we both had a lot of growing. We both came into the relationship with a lot of baggage, and we both had a ton to grow. Yeah. And I think we can look, and I think the fact that we've had we talked about it, deep conversations, hard conversations over the years that we both, and I think that's why we both say, yeah, we wish we'd have waited, because she had a lot of growth, I had a lot of growth. I mean, I'm 35, and I mean, I would say the upswing of my growth didn't happen until I was 32 or 33.
Yeah.
And I mean,
so how long have y'all been married?
10 years.
10 years.
Wait, no. What am I talking about?
I was like,
oh my
I
God.
was
Probably
like
13 or 14
wait,
years.
I was about to say, 'cause you said you're 35.
years.
I was like, that
14
math
years.
does not
Yeah.
add up.
We've been married. Oh, sheesh. That's terrible. It's like the other day, I told somebody I was like 32, and I'm like, no, I'm 34.
No
I'm
way.
almost 35.
Wow,
yeah.
I've just turned 36. It's crazy to believe. Do you find that episode number? It was Midsummer with Alan Dixon. Just he and I.
30.
Episode number 30.
So
Episode
I mean,
30.
and it's something that we talk about a lot, because we together as a husband and wife have had very open, very hard conversations of like, I had, and at the end of the day, like the big thing that I have learned is, at the end of the day, you can't control your spouse.
Yeah.
And like, I had to change me. right? Like I had to work
right.
on myself. I think for me, for so long, it was kind of this idea of like, oh, they need to grow. She needs da, da, da. It was me, right?
Yeah.
Like I had to grow. And then from her perspective, it was the same thing of like, oh, I got to grow. I can't change him. And so those conversations especially over the last 2 to 3 years have really shaped and informed like where we are today.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, both of us did. I mean, again, she had baggage, I had baggage. And because we went for so long, 10 to 12 years of our marriage without really addressing that baggage, if we had the conversations and the discussions we had the last 2 years, had we had them on year 3 and 4,
Sure.
it'd have been much, much different.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Your marriage is an example that God can bring redemption, healing, and hope. I mean, it really is. And that's really cool to see.
I mean,
and went through a lot of pain to bring about that example, or that story, that testimony, really. You went through a lot of pain for that, but that's how I see it, man.
And I mean, and I think that's okay for me. I grew up with this idea of I had an image, and we've talked about this, so I won't go into the full story. But like this image of who Alan was and who I crafted it to be, right? And then had to go into the like I was portraying something that I wasn't really, right? And having to learn and I guess really unlearn a lot of things. That I almost feel a responsibility now to be open with those stories. Like I feel a responsibility to talk out in the open of like, don't do this, right? Like have these kinds of conversations now early on in your marriage so that it makes your marriage much easier down the road.
Yep.
And now because of that, we can have very hard conversations that aren't really that hard as much as they used to be. They're still hard at times, but and I think and the reason, again, going back to that, is I know that there are other people that have a hard time talking about them. Like, oh, my marriage is in shambles, right? Because they feel this need to portray an image of like, we're this really highly spiritual, like really, place. And when the reality is, it's not always been that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Or successful or in love. Like they're portraying this thing that's just not the case. And that's an awful place to be.
Yeah. And I think the ability to talk about it, I mean, you've talked about it on here, but we've also talked about it in private, but just the ability to say, like, I don't have it all figured out, and that's okay, and we're just going to work through the fact that we don't have it all figured out is freeing. At least that's from us. That is from our perspective.
Yep.
And it's just so freeing.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, I can resonate. I definitely had more to grow and develop than Mariana did.
Yeah,
She's always been kind of the strong one, the stable one, the constant. And I can be all over the place. Yeah. So that process for me,
that's definitely me.
Yeah, of becoming a man, becoming a more full, well-rounded, balanced, stronger, more wise man. Because I would say I was a man when I got married, but I was 20. Like I was, and it's not even. I don't think it's so much about age, but man, I definitely had a lot of growing up to do. So I feel like there was more growth required on my end than Mariana's end. But she's grown too. And I'll say this, like with getting married young, Mariana is the only girl that I've ever kissed or had sex with. And I don't feel like I've missed a single thing. 36 years old, like kissing her and having sex with her now is better than it was 15 years ago. 14, because we weren't doing it 15 years ago. But legit, and I'm not just saying that.
No.
And I'm not even saying, so you have a lot to look forward to, Mac, because I will say this. It's not better as in like, a little step better. It's better as in like a different category
Absolutely.
better.
Oh, 100. Yeah. And
so
then,
Andrew, you've got lots to look forward to, my brother, because he just got married 2 months ago.
Yeah, I know. I saw something, I don't remember what it was, some video or some kind of ad on YouTube. It's really weird. If you watch YouTube, you can turn off personal ads. Like, you know how like you'll search for things and it'll tailor to you specifically? You can turn that off, which I have turned off. But it's strangely weird how sexual and like just weird those ads are once you
Right.
have personalized ads turned off. It's really weird.
You mean when you turn
Like-
them off, it gets more sexual?
It's really weird.
Really?
Yes. It's like online dating, singles in your area. It's really
Oh, I
weird.
see.
When you turn it off, I mean, I've had it because I went one day and was like, why
You kind
am
of
I
want the toaster in your
I was like, why
ads.
am I seeing these
Yeah.
ads? Because like I know personal, and I even double checked personal ads. I was like, I don't understand why this is showing up. But anyways, I say that, and Carmen's the only woman I've ever had sex with.
Mhm.
I've kissed a couple other girls, but
Yeah.
um,
Did you have a stash like that when you did it?
Definitely no.
I did not.
Definitely
I tell you what, the stash
no.
does get in the way sometimes.
Sure.
But we're going on our 4th year,
Mhm.
and our times of intimacy is already better than it was.
Yes.
Year 2, year 1, year 2, and even last year. And I think we've just done a lot of growing up
Mm-hmm.
in this year because we've moved away from home, and even in a spiritual aspect, we've had to kind of grow up our own self spiritually and just financially in jobs. But you say that, just it gets better, and I don't
It
feel like
does.
I've
I
missed
think
out
the category-
No,
whatsoever.
you haven't missed out, and I don't
Because
feel
it
like
was-
I missed out at
Yeah,
all.
It was the
think-
video was about something like missing out or something like I can't remember. It was just a stupid ad, and I was like, you know what? I don't feel like I've missed out at all.
No, you
I feel
haven't.
I think that
completely
category
fulfilled.
Kent, you're talking about is like when you first are married, that the love you think you feel, just letting you know, is different than you feel in 10 years.
Sure.
It's hard to comprehend.
It's so
it's
hard.
it's like if you've always been surrounded by the color red, and somebody comes to you and says, "Oh, there's this color blue,"
Mhm.
right? You can try to imagine it, but until you really
Yeah.
see it,
Right.
you only imagine a different shade of red.
Now I know y'all have been
Right?
married for double digits years, but 4 year going into our 4th year, I love my wife in a different way than the first 2 years now.
Mhm.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
this deep respect for who she is a person. And this year has kind of been a growth into that, and it's been really nice
and
to
and
see
you're-
her as her individual, a person whom I just love being around.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She's just a phenomenal woman.
And year 10 will be even different than year 4,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, we're 14 years in, and I know in my mind year 25 will be much different
Yes.
than year 14,
Yep.
where we are today.
Yep.
And I can't comprehend it. I don't know what 25 years of
I
love
can't
looks
wait.
like. But I mean, but I'm just saying every time you think,
Yeah.
you are on a different level.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know for a fact that 25 will feel different
Yeah.
than 14.
Yes.
I can't wait to see how much my love will grow for my wife from when she becomes the mother of my child.
Right.
I can't,
Yeah, that's a different
now
deal.
we're in a
Yep.
stage of we're trying to actively have a kid. I can't wait to see how my love changes for her.
Yep.
For when she does become the mother
Yeah.
of my
That
child.
is a milestone for sure.
Yeah.
Because now at this point, when you look at your child and just see that is a byproduct of y'all's relationship, and together you are their
yeah.
parents.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
It is. It's
It
a
is,
different
really.
deal
Yeah.
entirely. I mean, you know. So I think but y'all are talking about the relationship. I'm still just coming back to just the sex.
But no,
But I'm saying you're
Yeah.
that's probably what you're talking about a little bit too. Like even the sex is better 4
Absolutely.
years in. But I'm just saying, bro, wait until you're in even your 30s. You're not missing anything now. It's fine. It's great now.
Yeah.
It's gonna be better in your 30s. I'm telling you.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
believe it.
Sure.
Yep.
100%.
So I don't feel like you're missing anything by getting married young and only having kissed or had
Absolutely.
sex with your wife. I think
Yeah.
that's you're
And
just not
to be
missing out.
clear, I don't think we talk about waiting till 25 because of the sex part of it. You know what I mean? That's not the piece
Right.
of it. I think it's just the relationship. The relationship you have with yourself is different. Does
I
that make
agree.
sense?
Yeah.
I agree.
And I think that as I've come to have a better relationship with myself and understand myself and am honest with myself, it has helped Lauren and I's relationship.
Yeah.
We it's not like two halves. I mean, we've talked about this. You think two half people come together to make one, which is what we tried to do for a long time.
Yeah.
Right?
You're two
'Cause
holes.
You're two holes coming together.
Yeah.
And I think the more whole you are as a person, the better you are together.
Yes.
And I mean,
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
just and I just think that's where we were.
Yeah.
As individuals, we were not whole people.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? Like we just wasn't. And now that as we've become more whole people, our relationship has it's on a different level.
It's a good way to put it.
100%.
I think we'd all probably agree here that it's not about the age; it's just about finding the bright one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and so that happened for us when we were
Yeah.
well, it happened kind of for all of us, I guess, when we were
Yeah.
19 or 20 or 21. But I think so. I'm with you, Alan, in that if I hadn't met Marianne, like if it was a clean slate or whatever, you were redoing it, like being 24, 25, and then meeting Mariana, like I probably could have been a better husband out of the gate.
Yeah.
That way.
I was not a great husband.
Sure. It's just that's not how it happened. So I wouldn't have been like, all right, I met you. I like you. I think I might even starting to love you, but let's wait 5 years. Like I wouldn't suggest someone does that. But if in the course of just going about your life, you wait till you're 28, 29, like Andrew, or 25, that's great. You're not missing anything that way either. Like that's just so I think it's about the person, not how old you are.
Right.
Talking about finding the right one. I don't mean to be cheesy, but man, I don't know your story and I don't know yours either, but I never thought like love at first sight and all that kind of stuff was a real thing. But I remember when I saw Carmen for the first time and I thought to myself, I'm going to take that woman on a date and I'm going to marry her.
Oh, really?
I legit
When you
thought
saw
that
her.
before we even gone on a date.
That's crazy.
I don't know what it was. It was the weirdest thing ever. And I'm not trying to be all weird and like
no,
fantasize
that's
this,
the thing,
but
dude.
Seriously, like I knew from the get go when we went on a date, we started hanging. I was like, dude, this is the woman. This is her.
Yep.
This
So
is
you
it.
knew right out of the gate,
I knew
basically,
right out of
that
the
this
gate.
was different. You didn't know how it was going to shake out. You
Nope.
didn't know if she'd say yes to dating you or marrying
Nope.
you, but you were interested in a way that you'd never been interested before.
Absolutely.
And that's how I was too. And yet I was. So I had that experience, and then I went kind of like I do with everything else. I zoomed out and considered all the other options.
No, I did do that. Yeah.
And realized, this is the other options are
I
not
actually
what I'm
broke
after.
up with
This is the
Carmen
one.
twice.
No way.
Twice.
Wow. Hey, on
in
that
our
point,
relationship.
let me just say, if you guys have not seen, have you all seen We Bought a Zoo?
Oh, you talking about the movie?
The movie, We
I've
Bought
never
a
seen
Zoo.
it, but I know what you're talking about. That's what's his name?
It is Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. Yeah.
We
I've
Bought
never
a
seen
Zoo.
it. I know what you're
It's
talking
an
about.
older
but I've never
movie,
seen it.
right?
It's an older movie.
What,
Have you seen it, Andrew?
mid-2000s? Like 2010?
I have, yeah.
2010. Okay, so we just watched We Bought a Zoo 2 nights ago or so. It was over Thanksgiving with the kids. I think it's PG-13 or maybe it's even PG. I forget. And I feel like I had seen it a long time ago, but I'm not sure that I had. I highly recommend that movie.
Okay.
And just have some tissues handy. But maybe if you
I'm
didn't.
a crier now. So.
I cried
I
at
am
Frozen
too.
2.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I'd go that far, but in
No, I
movies, music, and TV shows, I'm criers.
Yeah,
I'm a
I
crier.
am
I'm
too.
a crier.
But if you have experienced any sort of loss in your
Yeah.
life, like a death of a loved one or a close friend or anything like that, this movie's going to kind of hit
Yeah.
home. But basically, the storyline is that happened. Like Matt Damon and his character, and this is based on a true story, was walking down a sidewalk, looked into the window of a coffee shop, and there was a girl sitting there at the coffee shop, and he looked at her, and he felt something that he'd never felt with any other girl or woman before, and he kind of instantly knew like there is something different and special
Absolutely.
about that lady, and I have to at least do my part to get to know her
Yeah.
and see where this could go, like that quick. And I think
can't
I think
explain
that
it.
does happen. It doesn't happen with. I don't know if it even happens that often. It certainly
Yeah.
doesn't happen for everyone, but like that is how that story played out. And then she died from cancer or something like that. And then they buy a zoo, and he's got his 2 kids. I mean, it's a tearjerker for sure, but it's a very heartwarming, kind of uplifting story that
Yeah.
kind of speaks to like character and perseverance and like getting through tough times together with your loved ones, and then having like the Lord lead you through that, So, the Lord wasn't a specific thing in that movie, but like, like everything has a
always
season,
find-
even seasons
Yeah.
of loss. That is a season, and there
Yeah.
is hope, and there is healing, and there's restoration and redemption that can come out of that. Great movie.
It's
Great
also
movie. You guys keep talking. I have to go pee.
all right. Well, hello, Alan. I guess it's our podcast now. It's funny. He was just talking about loss. We can change topic a little bit if we want to, but I think also with time, it's crazy how much, like in the moment, you don't realize it, but then later, when you look back, realize how hard that was. I lost my mom back in 2016, and now looking back, on those years. Carmen and I were just getting engaged. How difficult that was for me as a person.
Right.
And I don't know what made me think of that, but, just changing topic. And, man, it's crazy how time works.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you go through it, and you're like, man, it obviously sucks, but, we're making it. But then you get, 4 or 5 years down the road, and you look back at that, and you're like, man, that was hard.
Right. Yeah.
That was hard.
And I think that for me, in a lot of ways, like I think it was C.S. Lewis that said, only a crazy person would run to pain,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I don't think it's not intuitive to us to run into pain. Like if we ever had the choice, do you want pain or do you not want pain? Like I think we would always choose no pain, right? I think that's the natural part of us. But I think that again, going back to our relationship, like I don't think we would have ever chosen. Yeah, let's just go through 10 years of really, tough.
You want to marry me, and we're gonna have 10 years of just suck.
Yeah, we're gonna have 10 years of suck, right? But I think that what we learned is coming on the other side of the 10 years. It's what adds to that factor of love that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Of you have a different view of your spouse. You have a different view of love. You have a different view because pain has a way of pulling things out of you that you wouldn't have chosen on your own, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what I was telling you about, like with year 4 is different than year 14, just like 14 will be different than year 24. That pain in and of itself, you wouldn't have chosen, but it turned out to be a positive situation because of what you've learned from
Absolutely.
it.
Quick update, what I was saying when you left. You talking about losing someone and just kind of hardship. And I was talking about how when you go through something like that, you don't realize how hard it was or how hard it is for you until like many years down the road.
Yeah.
And I was just telling him I lost my mom back in 2016. Through that time, Carmen and I was getting engaged. We were getting married the next year. And yeah, it sucked, but we were making it. We were doing what we had to do. But now I look back at that and I'm like, man, that was hard.
Yes.
And it's hard even looking back on it.
Yes.
And
I did not know you lost your mom in 2016.
yeah, 2016 to cancer.
Really?
Yeah.
How long did she have cancer?
For 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
What kind of cancer?
It was cancer. So it started out as ovarian cancer.
Oh, wow.
She never knew she had it. When she went and got it, when it got caught, it already moved to the peritoneal, which is like the lining of your stomach and organs and all that kind of stuff. They gave us a pretty good outcome to at least 5 years. It was never was more than 5 years. The type that she had was rare, but there was a 75% chance of us putting it in remission. It was only going to go into remission, and it would eventually come back. But chemo, man, it took a hard toll on her intestines and her stomach and just everything. And I think, obviously, the cancer was the icing on the cake, but the chemo really messed her up pretty hard. And we came to a crossroads where she could have had a surgery to remove a mass, but there was a very high chance of her bleeding out on the table because, her tissue had become so thin and soft because of the chemo. And that was one of the hardest days of my life, sitting in that room when we decided for her not to have the surgery.
God.
And she wanted to go home and spend just the rest of her whatever she had left at home. And yeah. So yeah, it was
Were you
tough.
dating Carmen at the time?
Yes. Carmen had got to meet her.
They
cool. Got to meet. It's actually really cool. She wears my mom's old wedding band.
Oh,
so
it's
it's
cool.
over 100 years old. 1919
Wow.
was when it was made. Well, actually, it probably was made before that. But my great-grandparents, my great-grandmother wore it for her wedding band. In 1919 is when they got married. My parents got married in 87, I think. She wore it. And then probably the second hardest day ever was when my mom gave me that wedding band to give to Carmen. So
she had she had cancer at that time.
Yeah,
right?
When she gave it to me to give to Carmen,
she knew it was only a matter of time before she was going to die. At that point,
she knew that we all knew that it was coming to an end. she had knew that I was about to get ready to engage. I was looking for a ring, and so she gave that to me for her, and it was it was a hard moment. It was
I'm
it was
sure.
a tough time, but
So that I didn't know that. And
Yeah.
I'm very sorry to hear that, by the way. And I think that helps me understand quite a lot into who you are,
Yeah.
because at 24, that's where some of that empathy comes from. That's where some of that maturity comes from. I mean,
it changes
losing-
a person to lose your mom
Yes.
or your dad.
absolutely.
Yep. It's
It does forever, and it'll mark you forever. And the
Yeah.
pain is, I lost my dad when I was 10.
yeah.
And I mean, I was crying myself to sleep occasionally still when I was 15.
Yeah.
5 years later. I mean, that pain cuts so hard and so
Absolutely.
deep. And there was an older wise lady from church who at the time, said something I didn't want to hear, but she said that, pain heals. I'm sorry, that time heals
Yeah.
pain. And it does. It's just I didn't want time. What I heard is not what she was saying, but what I heard was that in time I'm going to become a little bit more distant from
Yeah.
my dad and with our memories and things like that, and I didn't want that.
Yeah.
I would rather have the pain and still feel close to
Yeah,
him and his
absolutely.
memory than not have the pain and
Absolutely.
feel distant.
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel like I got both, because time did heal
Mm.
in a lot of ways, and still though, like occasionally it still cuts deep.
Yeah.
And it's going to until I die. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's fine. That's how that's life and death, right? I mean, when you experience a death, when someone dies, I feel like when they die from when they're quote unquote expected to of old age or whatever,
Mhm.
like that still hurts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's still like if you lost your mom when she was 93 and everything like that, you still have lost your mom, and you only
Yeah.
had the one mom, and she's your mother, and now she's died. Like, death is so final like that. But
I still think
when
it's
you
different
lose
at
your
that
mind
age.
when you're,
Yeah.
sorry, when you lose your mom when you're 20 and she's young,
Yeah.
too young to die, like like that's a different thing
Yeah.
entirely, and
Absolutely.
that pain is searing.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I think one of the what are the 5 stages of grief? I always forget. What's does anybody know?
Anger,
don't.
bargaining,
Anger,
Denial is first.
Denial's first,
Okay.
yeah.
and then bargaining.
Bargaining.
Bargaining, then what's the other one? I really don't know. I'm trying to remember. I used to at one point. Acceptance.
Right? Acceptance is the last final stage.
You think?
I believe
probably
so.
is.
I think that's right.
Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance.
I think that
Oh wow. Denial, anger, bargaining,
depression.
depression, acceptance.
I don't think I've ever said this out loud, but I think, coming on the 4th year of her death, I'm just now probably either halfway through the acceptance phase or coming to an end of that acceptance phase.
Yeah.
And you don't see that until I think you're really out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's 4 years, and like you said, it's going to be still cut deep, later in life still. But I'm now in that point where I've grown up, really living independently with a wife who I'm trying to have kids with. I'm now at that point where, I've accepted, like, that's what's happened.
Yeah.
And, I'm at that point now in life where the realization of, like, it's real, it's what happened, and now it's time to not move on, but
Right.
to be honoring my mother and
Yeah.
doing things like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah, I that does make sense, and I think just be prepared to dip back into prior steps.
oh, absolutely.
Because I've definitely done that. So like sometimes anger still may crop up. Like
Yeah.
you've worked through the 5 stages, but then anger crops up.
What
Or
else you got over there?
depression or whatever. So Alan's got all kinds of cigars over here.
How much? This one was really good. I just smoked that one. What's this one like?
Any of the Gurkhas are going to be good.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
pretty
they're-
good. They're
I
pretty
really
They're
enjoyed
good.
that. Where
Are you
did
about
buy
to
those
smoke
from?
your second one, Mac?
Whoa, man. Okay.
Good for you.
He's on his second.
Go. No,
okay,
go
wait.
ahead.
What is? How,
I just
let
didn't
me,
think you were
no,
a cigar smoker.
No, so let's get to this first. When I walk in, I'm gonna pick up a cigar, and you're like, "Man, we were betting that you weren't even gonna smoke a cigar."
I didn't think you
It's
were
the fair
a cigar
skin.
smoker.
It's the fair
Is
skin.
that what it is?
I think
Okay.
the fair skin and the baby face. You're like, hey, he's not a cigar smoker.
Mhm.
I think that's what it is.
That would have been my
Well,
guess, Max. It's not an insult.
I'm offended.
I just said it's not an insult.
That one cut deep.
Thanks for sharing that about your mom,
Yeah,
Mac.
I didn't mean to go down that road.
No,
but,
I'm glad you did. I didn't know it, and I'm glad to know it
yeah.
now.
Last note, though, you know what it's like. I don't. Have you lost a parent out? I don't mean to.
I have not. That's why I'm staying a little quiet on this because I don't, I mean, thankfully, I can't resonate to that. But
no, I was gonna ask you. I didn't know if you had that experience. I was gonna ask you too if you did. But one of the biggest things I struggle with now, not necessarily that my mom's gone in a sense. Obviously, I struggle with that, but that my mom will never get to see my grandkids, like be a grandparent.
Yeah.
Or my kids, and she'll never be a grandparent to them. I think that has been one of the hardest things for me getting older.
Yeah.
My mom is a huge baby lover. Worked in the nursery for church for 20-something years.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, she was all about newborn babies.
Yeah.
She loved it. She would have been a great grandmother. We'd have just thrown the kids at her for holidays and all that kind of stuff and just let them have it. But I think that's been the hardest thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
After the initial fact of like losing your mom and all the stuff comes with it, is that she'll never be a grandmother to my kids. That's the hardest.
Well, and your kids aren't going to get to meet her.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you're saying. But yeah, that is hard. It's really cool that Carmen got to meet her though.
Yes.
Because
they actually really liked each other.
Really?
Which is really good.
That's really
I remember
cool
my mom one day, she came to me, she's like, I really like her. I was like, well, why so? She's like, well, compared to all the other ones you've ever let me meet, she actually helped me with the dishes.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, I just love her. And I just remember her thinking, like, because Carmen came in one night after dinner and helped my mom clean the kitchen and all that kind of stuff. And my mom was just mesmerized by that.
Yes.
She was like, I love her. And I was like, that's all I need to know.
Well,
that's all I need to know.
It's really cool that you have that affirmation. Not that you needed it, but you got it.
Absolutely.
With Carmen, which it's going to extend to your kids, So your mom may not be able to meet your kids in this life, but you know that she was a fan of Carmen.
Absolutely.
And so, of course, she's going to be a big fan of the babies you and Carmen make or have together.
I was also my mom's baby, so.
Oh, really?
You're the youngest?
She was way more partial to me than my brother.
At least he knows
how much older?
Honest.
How much older?
5 years.
Okay.
Your brother was 5 years older.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you need the torch or you got it? Yeah, you got it.
I got it.
Okay. All right. Good job there, Mac.
Do you just think I'm not a cigar smoker?
That's
every
what I
Monday
thought.
night, baby. Every
Really?
Monday night, cigars and pipe. And
Where?
liquor.
Out on the
Smokers
back porch?
Abbey on Gallatin Pike.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I love that place.
What's your go-to cigar?
It's usually a Maduro from what's that? I'm trying to think of the specific. Dude, I can't even think of the specific name of the cigar. It's a
But Maduro, though, he even likes the darker cigars.
Yeah, I'm a Maduro.
impressed.
That's what I did. I mean, that's what all that I brought was Maduros. So Kent's he's smoking these just because we brought them, but he's a Connecticut guy.
No, I do love Connecticut
I've
wrapper.
switched to a more darker cigar.
Have you?
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
I do love
Wow.
Connecticut wrappers.
I do
though.
too.
They're
I do
so
too.
good.
I can deal with them if they've got a little flavor to them.
Yeah.
The beef that I have with a lot of Connecticut wrapper cigars is they're just not.
Not flavorful.
They're not flavorful.
No, I do run in that too a lot, and so
you have
to
you
find
have to
a
have
By the way, did you know that the flavor on cigars comes from the wrapper? I didn't know that until
well,
recently.
a big part of it, not all of it.
okay, I'm gonna need
Right.
the torch. This lighter
but
sucks.
a big part of the
sorry.
flavor.
That's a very well built cigar. No, the reason why I'm just not just saying that, but what I mean by that is it's wrapped very
So it
well,
needs a
so it's
torch?
tighter. So you have to let it burn a little bit better because it's wrapped really tight.
All right. Well, I think that's one of the learnings. What you're saying, Mac, about loss and everything, that is, it's one of the learnings I have from 2020, which is that everything is a season. Everything is a season. And when you're in a season of grief or loss or disappointment or depression or anxiety or uncertainty or fear or worry, disappointment, if I didn't already mention that, like that is, when you're in those seasons, it's like someone says everything's a season and you just want to be like, yeah, but not for me.
No.
You know what I mean? Not for me. This is never going to go away. But truly, like everything is a season. Like this too shall pass. Doesn't Ecclesiastes say that?
Yeah. I'm actually reading through that book right now.
Well, Ecclesiastes is a great book to get some perspective on
Absolutely.
life and to kind of get out of your moment. But everything is a season. That was one of my learnings that I jotted down for this podcast. Is everything is a season. I mean, this too shall pass. So like sometimes all you can do is just hang on.
Absolutely.
That's what you need to do is you just need to hang on, and you need to, the best you can. You need to keep your chin up without putting your nose in the air, but you have to sometimes just hang on because everything is a season.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of people dealing with a lot of darkness this year in 2020, with isolation and separation, and which can lead to anxiety and depression and all kinds of very bad things. But you know what? Guess what? Like 2020s, that's a season. This pandemic is not going to last forever. And people that are out of a job, that's not going to last forever. And people that have like uncertainty on the financial front, that's not going to last forever.
Absolutely.
People that have dealt with a loss, that loss may last forever, but feeling that pain and sharpness, like they might be feeling it now, that's not going to last forever. Everything's a season. So that's just one thing that I'm not saying that because I feel like I'm out of the woods, like with dealing with some of the loss we've had financially and so forth. But I just know that to be true because when I look back, I mean, it's a principle, it's a life principle. So I don't even want to use say I believe it's true because when I look back on my life, because that's not a very good reason for other people to believe that. It's just that is how life works. Everything's a season.
And I think that along the lines, I'll speak for myself. Historically, when I'm going through a very difficult season of my life, regardless of what it is, it's easy for me to want to fast forward and be like, okay, just pretend like the season isn't happening, or like, in a sense, like, oh, we're gonna get through this, but not really sitting in it.
Yeah,
I think
that's right.
It is really important. Like if you're feeling pain, with your mom, or feeling pain with a loss, like I haven't physically lost a family member close to me, but in a lot of ways, my dad was emotionally absent, right? Because his dad was emotionally absent. And so my way of coping with it had always been just pretend like it doesn't exist, right? Like just, whatever, or I'm going to be strong, I'm going to be better, I'm going to, whatever that may be. But for me, I feel like the more you embrace whatever season it is, the more fully you live it, the more you learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
But B, the less it lingers when you're out of that season. Like, meaning
Right.
that it's so easy, like 2020 for a lot of people, and I don't want to speak for a lot of people. Like 2020 has been like really hard. Yeah. For me, I'm kind of like you. It's been an incredible season, at least from a financial standpoint, from a career standpoint. But that doesn't mean that I haven't had really, really low seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And what I'm kind of learned is you don't brush those seasons off. Like the more fully you can experience them.
I agree.
Right? Like if you're feeling loss of something, whether it's a family member, whether it's financial, whether it's a career, whether it's a complete shift, the more fully I sit in it and I experience that grief, the more I'm able to process that grief and get on the other side.
Yep.
Right? Like,
Totally agree with that
you
point.
have, I mean, it's the avoidance that causes it to last longer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, we talked about this a long time ago when we talked about the bison and all this stuff of the, running to the storm and all this stuff. And it's not, again, because you want to run into pain, but it's like you need to sit in it. Like you need seasons of your life and what you're like, it's just shitty right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just shitty, and I'm not going to avoid it. I'm not going to pretend like it doesn't exist. I'm just going to be, right? Because then you can process it, you can deal with it, and you can move forward, right?
Absolutely.
And I mean, and in the same way, I think that's why, going back and, saying don't feel bad for being in a good season, because if you're in a good season, you need to fully enjoy it, right? Like this is
exactly.
a good season.
It cuts both ways.
It cuts both
Yes.
ways.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
need to, if it's hard, you need to fully sit in that and experience it. And in the same way, if it's a really good season, you want to be able to experience, like, man, I got a lot of joy right now. I'm in a good place.
Yep.
I'm in a good place of life because too many times we want to bring down the highs, we want to bring up the lows, and we never really fully experience life. Like I remember when I was with my therapist one time, this was a couple years ago, whenever I really started digging into my shit, right? I was going through it, and I was really processing the fact of like India was a highlight of my life, and that's whenever I really had a culture, like my whole shift and everything in my life changed when I lived in India for a while, and it was really tough because I said it in passing, was trying to move on with the conversation in my therapy session, and I said, yeah, I just try not to think about it. Like I don't think about India because it's too hard. And she's like, wait. Let's back it up. Like I didn't want. It was such a good time of my life. It was such a moment of my life that it was just like, it's like I felt like every day I woke up with purpose and I was living and breathing this experience, and like I was in the culture and all this stuff. And but leaving India was one of the hardest experiences of my life. Like going there was incredible. Leaving there was hard because I felt like, okay, now I don't have that season anymore. And she wouldn't let me go. She's like, no, we need to dig into this.
Yes.
That's a good therapist.
She's
is.
like, and she was able to see like, no, you're trying to avoid something.
Yep.
And it really took a long time of really just living it, and like the pain that I felt because I wasn't there anymore. Like I had to really sit in it when I was just angry and sad and all this stuff. Like the more I was like, yeah, that was a great time of my life, and I miss it. And like now I can talk about things. That's just why I can talk about the marriage. I can talk about the highlights and all this stuff because for a long time I just didn't want like if it was highs, I didn't want to talk about them after they was over because I'd be like, like that season's over.
Sure. Yep.
And
so facing into and recognizing and appreciating both the highs and the lows while you're experiencing those is important. And the highs too. Like I even come back to what you were saying, Mac, about you having a great year. I'm happy to hear that. You know what I mean? Like I haven't had a great year, but I'm happy to hear that you have. And if I can't appreciate the fact that you had a great year and take encouragement from that, which I do, like I'm really happy to hear that because it's like, well, not everyone's having a bad year. Like there is good times out there to be had. You know what I mean? And so like if someone's not in a good time and they can't appreciate and learn from and take encouragement from someone who is in a good spot, then that's also a lack of empathy.
100, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And we usually don't think of it quite as much cutting that way as the other way.
While we're still on this note, you mentioned your biggest kind of takeaway or that you learned this year. It's almost exactly what I've learned this year. And while we're on this topic, seasons and life of how temporary they are. Man, I think that being a cop has really brought that to just a light to me. So this year I've been really, I'm not saying I've been focusing on death, but I've been focusing on, man, like life really is going to come to an end one day.
Yeah.
And the reality of that, this year, 2020, obviously it's been somber for a lot of people. I've talked about I had a good year. There's been good things in it. But man, like with the suicide rates that have gone up, crime rates have gone up, fatalities have gone up, seeing all this death really has made me think about what am I doing, one, for the kingdom of God, for my wife, my department, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that, what did you say earlier that your biggest, what was the exact wording that you said?
The everything is a season?
Everything is that what you said?
Maybe.
I think that has been the biggest takeaway. And I think it's just been a good leadway into what I actually was thinking about this earlier today when you texted us. And I don't know. I was thinking about this guy. So this is kind of graphic. He killed himself. It was one of the first like self-inflicted gunshot wounds I'd ever been to. And man, the other day, it just popped into my head and it hit me kind of weird. I kind of was like tearing up thinking about it, like what brings someone to that point? And I was thinking about those things and the seasons that people go through and then the height of 2020 and was just thinking about how short life really is. And even though this year's been kind of hard for people, man, it's been, you're still living, you still got life. And to really appreciate where I'm at, that I've got breath in my lungs, and that I have a wife who loves me, I think things that I've taken for granted the last 24 years of my life this year have become cherished things to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the biggest takeaway. even though it's been a good year for me, it's really made me think hard about life. And it's not like PTSD or anything like that's not what I'm talking about. But man, seeing some people result to their lowest point really messes with you. It really,
Yeah, for sure.
you can learn a lot from
I
it.
believe that.
You can learn from it, and it sounds weird. You can learn positive things from it, and then it sounds kind of weird. I don't mean that in a weird way, but it really messes with you. Makes you think about your own life, and it just shows you how quickly life can just be taken from you. And to realize that this year, I think that's been the biggest learning point, because going through life and not thinking anything's going to hurt you, and then doing this job where, like, man, it could, in an instant, something could happen, and, like, I could get shot. I could,
Absolutely.
dealing with dangerous people, and just the appreciation of life itself, I think, is really kind of open. That door's kind of open this year, and it's been good to realize that. And I think reason it has been good to realize that is for us three, and I know for Andrew back there, and for our Emmanuel family, like, there's something so much better after this life.
Right.
Yeah. There's so much better to sit at the foot of the throne, and get to spend eternity with the Lord.
Yep.
And, this year hasn't been like the most fantastic as far as spiritual life goes, but, all I can do is get better with it,
Sure.
So that, while we were still talking about that topic, I kind of wanted to throw that out
I'm
there.
glad you did, and I think it's one of the fascinating things about your role is you are going to see so many people's experience of being a human.
Yeah.
Like the good and the bad. Like you as a cop, you have a front row seat to that stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
it's hard, man.
That's probably not going to be the last gun-inflicted suicide that you go to. I've never been to one of those. I've never been to any suicides, and I don't care to. But you've been to one already, and you're probably going to come to some others. Like, you see people, you experience people kind of at their best and their worst, And that's going to give you some fascinating insights and I think wisdom that you can apply to your life and to the decisions you make and how you are as a husband, as a father one day. It's something I hadn't really thought of before until you brought that up. But I think on the suicide front, like, there are some people that, and I think it's actually great that they would say this, where they can't really relate to, like, how someone gets to the point where they would take their own life. I totally get it. Like, I'm just be honest. Like, I totally get it.
And I didn't mean that. Well, I don't understand how they get there.
No, it's not what you were saying. I was just making another point outside of what you were saying. But I think what it is, like, if I were to try to describe it, it's probably and I'm not a psychologist, so this is not an expert speaking by any stretch of the imagination. I just want to be clear on that up front. Only. But I wonder if the bulk of people that take their own life, they don't take their life because they can't stand to live anymore. They take their life because they legitimately feel that the world would be in a better place without them.
Yeah. And
that's painful. Like, that's a searing pain that they have to live with. And the way they get rid of that pain is by taking their life. And that cuts harder than, I can't live my own life anymore, I'm going to take my life.
Yeah.
Like, to actually feel like this world is better without me. That's a sucky feeling. That's such a hard, brutally kind of a searing pain that you have to deal with. And I wonder if, more people don't take their life for that reason than they just can't stand the pain of living anymore,
Yeah.
Because there's no hope on the other end.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I think, I was talking to a buddy of mine. With this job, you see a lot of cynical people. But I think what I hope for myself is that since I've been in this job, it makes me want to help people even more.
Okay.
Like, it makes me want to be a light in that person's life in any kind of way I can, more than it did before I did what I do.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And
because, man, like, you really just see people I'll tell that story later when we're on a different note, because it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. But, man, looking that man in the eyes and telling him something that tell him I'm not going to let him do something that he was about to do or attempted to do. It really changes your perspective of how, like, man, people can really get into that spot. And to help people out of that, would just be it. It's great.
Yeah.
Knowing that you save a life or something
Yeah.
like that.
Let's hear the story now.
Oh, dude, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
You can't tease us.
Dude, I'm telling you, a self-inflicted gunshot wound didn't even beat this. This was crazy. So, this guy, okay, well, let me just back it up a little bit. I'm helping another officer with a wreck that had happened. Somebody got hurt.
A car wreck?
Yeah, just a car wreck. Just a normal car wreck. Nothing crazy. Somebody was feeling a little sore. We're cleaning it up. We're getting everything done. And tow truck takes the truck, and we're on our way over there, and we're just cruising down the road. We're going somewhere, just cruising, whatever. We're not on anything particular. And another officer had taken a call at the AutoZone of some man who had bought razor blades and then locked himself in the AutoZone bathroom. Out of all the places he picks AutoZone,
wow.
I don't know why.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, you get calls like that all the time. It's not,
Really?
to you it's crazy, but to us it's like, oh, okay, whatever.
It's a Tuesday.
It's a
afternoon.
Tuesday. Yeah. Actually, I think it wasn't. No, it wasn't a Tuesday. I was off on Tuesday. I think it was like a Wednesday or a Thursday. But so like you're thinking, okay, maybe he probably is having suicidal ideations, or it could have just been a coincidence. You definitely, we see stuff like this all the time, so it's not always in our mind like it was you guys. Oh my goodness, razor blades and then locked himself in the bathroom. To us, it's probably some homeless guy who just doesn't want to leave. So another officer gets there, and it's quiet for a few minutes, and we're just doing our thing. We're driving down the road, and he comes over the radio, and he says his call sign is 23, and he's like, 23. He's like, I'm gonna need another car. And I was like, okay. So I said, whatever my call sign was that day, go ahead and send me that call. I'm just down the road. I'll be over there. He's like, yeah, he cut his wrist. And I was like, okay, so whatever my call sign was, 23, do you need his code 2, which is just get there, no lights and sirens, or do you need just code 3, running lights, sirens, emergency equipment? Like, we're getting there. We're breaking traffic laws to get there. He was like, it's like a few seconds of silence, and he goes, yeah, 23, I'm going to need you code 3. He also cut his throat. And I was like, what? So,
Wow.
yeah, so I'm like, I book it. I turn all my equipment on. I'm trying to get there because.
Real quick, why are they calling other cops and not? I assume they also call the ambulance.
Oh,
but
yeah. They're on their way.
Why are they getting backup from
I'm
cops?
getting there. I'm
Okay,
getting there.
okay.
So we show up, and I'm putting my latex gloves on. I'm already thinking the worst. So we go through the AutoZone door, and we're like, where's the other officers at? They're in the back. It's way in the back. And I come around the corner, and my eyes just got big. There was blood everywhere. This guy, I've seen people cut their wrists before. I've seen them do it horizontally. I've seen them do it vertically. Both, I've seen that before.
Alan's getting sick.
I am a
I've seen-
self-proclaimed wuss. This is why I could not be a doctor or a police officer.
I'll tell you something on that in a minute, but I have seen people cut vertically, and it's just like it's just like a gash and like all that kind of stuff, and they're bleeding. But man, this guy somehow took the razor blade, one slice all the way down both of his forearms, and I could see the inside of his entire arms.
Alan's gonna get queasy. You
I
might have to pull back from the resolution just
All
a
right,
little bit.
I could see
That's
like
crazy.
It was wild. I literally saw the internal aspect of his
Oh my
of
goodness.
his forearms, and then with his neck, he went from side to side. I could see both of his arteries.
Oh wow. Alan's legit gonna throw up. He can't handle this stuff.
Kent knows this, but like,
All right, I'm gonna finish real
Okay,
quick.
okay,
Quick,
finish.
so you don't have
Okay.
to hear. I could literally see, not like just behind stuff. Like I could see them in
Oh,
their
my
truest
goodness.
form, pulsing,
Oh,
right? And
He's still alive?
Still alive. It was the craziest thing, and the entire time we're trying to save this guy's life, right? He's fighting us. This guy really wanted to die.
He's fighting you because he wants to die.
He wants to die. He genuinely. It was a genuine attempt. It wasn't like an attempt for like, attention.
Right.
We know that happens, and that's not to minimize what they're going through, but it was a genuine attempt, and it was looking that man in the eyes, making eye contact with him, and telling him we're not letting him die is the just weirdest moment I think anyone can ever experience. I don't know. It's just weird, but it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. So we're trying to restrain this guy, and it's not funny. But my buddy went to go grab his arm, and when he grabbed it like this, and his fingers went on the inside
Oh, no.
of his forearm. And I just see him, I see him grab, and then I see him just let go immediately. And
my gosh.
And the guy takes his arm as soon as he gets it loose and just goes straight for his neck. And I mean, he's literally, you okay there, buddy?
You going to throw up or you all right?
Anyways.
I'm trying not to listen to the story.
Anyways. Seriously, though, it seriously was the craziest thing I've ever seen. I've never, he lived. He lived.
Really?
Yeah, I went to the hospital and asked the nurse, I said, so what's the trajectory? I was like, is he going to make it? Is he critical? What is it? She's like, no, it's just small tissue wounds. I was like, what? I said, wait a minute. Say that to me again. She said, yeah, it's just small tissue. I was like, you mean to tell me I just saw the entirety of half of this man's insides and that he is just small tissue? He missed every vital thing that he possibly could.
Really? So the things that you saw bleeding and pulsating were not like core veins
No.
or whatever?
No, it was just the blood from like just an average cut.
Really?
He missed
But most
every...
assuredly, if he had hit the main things, he'd be dead.
Oh,
right?
he would have been dead before we even got there.
Yeah. That's,
Yeah, he
crazy
missed
that
every...
you can have that much blood and not have hit the main ones.
It's crazy. I mean, I literally saw his arteries.
Wow.
So now on Alan's note, I'm a wuss too. I hate needles. I'm deathly terrified of them. I hate blood. But when I'm thinking about it, like, it's different now, but when I'm there and in the moment, something flips.
Sure.
I don't know what it is.
Okay.
But
You're in mission mode.
I'm in mission mode.
Okay.
But other than that kind of setting, no thanks.
Okay.
Nope.
So that explains
Never.
how doctors and nurses are able to do what they do.
I can't explain it, man. Now,
you're
some
on the
people it doesn't
job.
bother them. Some
Sure.
people it doesn't. But for me, like, I'm deathly afraid of needles. Last time I had a shot when I was like 15 years old and I cried. It was like a butterfly needle, the smallest one you can get. I still cried. Almost passed out when I was getting my getting hired for the department. You have to do like blood work. Almost passed out. I couldn't feel my legs or my hands because I was so nervous. Yeah, I really hate that stuff. But when it's when it's go time, it's a different story.
Huh. Wow. Was it a homeless guy?
No,
No.
not at all.
Wow.
Just a normal Joe.
I salute you.
Yeah, there's so
That's all I
much
can say.
suffering
Yeah.
out there, you know. For you to get a call on a random Tuesday or whatever day it was for something like that in Nashville,
Yeah.
that probably happens all over the country every day to some degree somewhere, right? Like this is not a super uncommon thing that happens.
Yeah, you know, what a lot of people know is how prevalent suicide is. Do you know that most gun deaths in America are actually overwhelmingly suicide?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. A large proportion of them are suicides.
Wow.
I don't know. I'll have to look up the statistic, but I don't know it by offhand, but an overwhelming number of them that are included in like gun deaths are overwhelmingly suicide.
Wow.
It's definitely an epidemic, pandemic, however you want to phrase that. It's a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
And this year it's been a lot worse. Homicides, suicide, and just general like domestic and
Like violent crime?
yeah,
Would you
violent
lump in with
crimes
that?
has gone up a lot this year.
Really? Do you think that's related to what? Economic situation, COVID fears, isolation?
I think it's
racial
multifaceted.
unrest?
I think it's multifaceted. I think you've got COVID is a big part of it. People, suicide, all that kind of stuff, relationship problems and domestics. I do think the lack of respect right now for the legal system and the law has caused a lot of just, I don't care, so I'm going to do what I want to do.
Right.
So I think that's where like violent crime has gone up, aside from like suicide and domestic and just like violence in general. Robberies have gone up, homicides have gone up, just aggravated assaults have gone up. Just all that stuff has skyrocketed this year. I think that there's a lot of it that goes into that. Now I don't have anything to back it up. I don't have any statistics. I'm not a psychologist or a researcher or anything. I don't know what people are thinking or what's in their mind, but I think that plays a role in it.
Man, you became a cop on quite the year.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
And I don't regret it at all. I don't regret it at all.
I mean, you're trial by fire, man.
Dude, I as much as it sounds like it's been a terrible year for like cops and all that stuff, I love this job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and it's funny because the media talks about how people just an overwhelming proportion of our society hates police, but man, I just don't see it.
Oh, really?
I really don't. On my normal day-to-day interaction with all communities, I don't see it.
Well, that's great to hear.
I don't. Now, of course, you run into people who are always going to hate police.
Yeah.
I mean, you always have that. That's always been there. But majority of the population, no.
Yeah, I'm happy to
I
hear
get
that.
thanked.
Yeah.
We can have conversations with just everyday Joes.
I think the self-awareness, I think that's a huge piece of it. Like, I think that, like the conversation, I literally had to take my headphones off because I thought I was going to pass out.
Yeah, I'm
for a
sorry.
second.
So
No, it's
you
okay.
would pass out before you'd vomit?
I don't know.
I was worried about the vomiting thing.
I mean, I don't know if I would
Get you bucket.
actually vomit. I think I would probably pass out before. Anyway, that being said, I think that the self-awareness of like who you are as a person, the fact that you enjoy that is
Well, I don't enjoy that
No, I mean,
particular.
no. But you enjoy that field, like the fact that you can run into those situations and come out of it. Like, I am helping society as a whole, right? Like I don't think I have. I know I don't have the stomach for it, and I'm okay with that.
I really was worried about that.
When
I became a
but I
police
mean,
officer.
but I think that people will go into it thinking, oh, I think that I'm this kind of person. They get into a job like that, and then they end up bitter on the other end because they're not actually built for it, even though they thought that they were, is huge. And the fact that you have the self-awareness, like, I legitimately love this, and the pivot that you had from I'm not going to be a pastor, I want to be a cop kind of thing is huge. I think that
Keep in mind, I am on my first year.
that's okay. And I mean, and that's okay. And I mean,
I say that jokingly, but
at least you're on the trajectory of like
I
you see
actively
this,
attempt to not be that guy.
you
who
know,
gets cynical.
Right.
you see that, okay, things like that propel you into, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do. Now 5 years from now, it may be completely different, but at least today, I'm here, I'm in this middle of a hard situation, but it fuels me rather than it drains me.
Yeah.
Is huge. And we had a conversation, we've had conversations, just me and you, and we had a conversation on the podcast when it was just me and you.
When am I going to get a solo, man?
When
when am I going to get a 101?
Trust me.
Make it through your first year, then we'll subject you to the torture of a one-on-one.
But what I'm getting at is, like, toward the end of last year, for me, it was this self-awareness of like, this is who I thought I was and this is who I'm not anymore, and stepping away from it and kind of moving away from this is going to this theme of like 2020 and lessons that we've learned. The stepping away and closing my business that I had poured 18 months of my life into. And 2020 has really played into this factor of like, I really enjoy what I'm doing now. Like, as I've went through 2020 and I had made a lot of those decisions prior to 2020, into 2019, is really just proven true. Like, yes, this is not who I am. This is who I am, and to see it start to flourish. I mean, at least in work, stepping back and not having this internal pressure of I've got to be this person, I've got to do this, I've got to appear this certain way, and really watching it play out of the fact that now that I've stepped away from being the quote unquote I own a real estate company in Nashville, which is a really hot market and really sexy and all that stuff, to being okay with that and seeing it play out to where I'm really living in my strengths now. And it's just so freeing to the point where, like, that's why I wear flip-flops. I know that sounds silly and it's a silly example, but like
I said, if my realtor shows up in flip-flops in 37-degree weather, I said, I'm buying that house today.
But that's an example of like, I'm going to be me.
Right.
And it's played out.
Yep.
Right. And I'm living in my core strengths, and we're doubling in our sales. Right. I'm literally almost by myself going to double what the entire company did last year. And that's because I'm okay with realizing this is what I really suck at.
Yeah.
And to watch that play out in 2020 and being
Absolutely.
okay with who I am and continuing to double down on that, continuing to have conversations of like, I really suck at this. I'm not going to do it. And the freedom that has came from that, it's almost made me addicted to cutting more and more and more out of my life.
But it's also being okay with what you're good at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not just being okay with what you're bad at. It's
Absolutely.
being okay with what you're good at, even if that's not who you wanted to project.
Exactly.
If you're just good at it, you're just good at it. And that's how you were designed. It's how you made it in there, and you got to embrace that.
That was one of the hardest life lessons I've ever had to learn was just because you want to do something and you think you'd be good at it doesn't mean that you will be. And like knowing what you're good at and who you are as a person.
Yes.
Man, that was a hard life lesson for me.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know.
I
just
think,
really
I
thought
think
about
that it's another kind of lesson I have from 2020, which is that life is its moments.
Yeah.
Like your lives in my lives are remembered by who and what that person loved
Absolutely.
and the sum total of its moments.
Hmm.
And it's not the big accomplishments or even the big failures, I don't think that like lives are remembered by. Because if you think about big accomplishments, for example, sure, I mean, you're remembered from those things for some period of time, probably mostly while you're alive. And then when you die, no one really cares anymore. Like it's because there's so many things that go behind a big accomplishment that like where they were at and their experiences and who they came into contact with. And I'm not taking anything away from people's successes. Like when you're like the year you're having, Alan, like that's not just dumb luck. You know what I mean? You sifted through talents and what you're good at and bad at. And like, that's the net result now that you're getting to experience. So there's nothing to take away from that success. And yet, even if you would have had 10 times the year that you're having now, like that's not ultimately what I'm going to remember you by or other people are going to remember you by, because there's just so many things that goes into a success or even a failure that other people have no idea about, but what you loved and who you loved and the sum total of like your life's moments. Like life is its moments. It's in the small, like everyday details and the things, how you are and how you acted and what you did in the moments. That's what I think lives are remembered by. So I think that's a learning for me in 2020 as well. Like
Absolutely.
life is its moments. That's what comprises a life.
Because I mean that one of my all-time favorite quotes, and it's one of the reasons why I really strive to be the best damn dad I could be. Right? And you know, like take things like Christmas and what we're going to get for Christmas and stuff and what you could do and what you actually do. And, you know, like the quote that I'll always refer back to is they will not remember the things you said. They will not remember the things you did, but they will always remember the way you made them feel.
Yeah.
Right. And like that, I think some of the best conversations that I've had with friends, with me and you, having a beer, a cigar, and different friends and different people that have crossed, you know, paths in my life is that moment, that feeling, like you said, like, you know, how you can have all kinds of success, but if you made people feel like shit, if you made your kids feel that way, if you made your wife feel that way, if you know, like that is, I think that's at the essence of who we are as people.
Yeah,
right?
totally agree.
And I think that, and I think that is what will be remembered, and I think the addiction that comes from like this is cutting out, like really sifting, like this is who I am and accepting it and doubling down on it and tripling down on it, and this is who I'm not, and being completely okay with that, you know, like and just and watching it play out in real time is huge.
Yeah,
is huge.
I agree. Anything else you guys learned from 2020?
Nothing I've learned, but I was thinking about this a minute ago. There's this commercial I've been seeing, and it's kind of tailored toward 2020. Obviously, this is probably not the hardest year ever in world history, but the main idea of the commercial is that some of the best ideas and companies and things have come out of history's hardest points. And so I think what I'm really interested about is to see the things that are going to come out of 2020.
Yeah.
Like businesses, ideas, and the way we do things. And when people, I don't know, it was, I think the commercial starts out with like the 1930s, and it's showing like some major companies who came out of the 30s during like the Great Depression, and what caused people to, have ideas and made it work. And now they're these multi-billion-dollar companies that like we can't live without and all that kind of stuff. So I'm interested to see how 2020 shapes people who have had a hard time come out of it and do well. I'm interested to see like the fruit of what's going to come out of 2020.
I totally agree. It's already happening. There's a couple in our neighborhood in Creve Hall. They started a Creve Hall Bagel Company.
Oh, wow.
And my wife's had some, I think she got some of their bagels. And she said they're phenomenal, and they're just blowing up. They were on a news station in Nashville. And
did it happen during COVID?
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
I think they either started working from home or lost their jobs, or something changed in their life circumstance where they started Creve Hall Bagel Company. And guess what? It's going really, really well. But that bagel company wouldn't have existed if
it wasn't for COVID.
If it wasn't for COVID and things that were happening around 2020, whatever that was. So I think that's an example.
Yeah.
I think another thing that we're going to see that no one's aware of now, but it's already happening beneath kind of the level of consciousness, is food delivery. Food delivery, I think, could be the next big kind of Uber.
Don't get me.
Which, matter of fact,
I hate food deliveries.
But the founder of Uber, Travis Kalanick, has started Cloud Kitchen. I really like his business model. So the business model is they go into cities that he wants to kind of have markets that he wants to be in, and they buy buildings in like industrial parks.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be sexy, doesn't need to be expensive. It's zero retail, no walk-ins. So they buy the real estate, and then they have the technology to make the food delivery and things happen, and then they use owner-operators to rent the kitchen space from them. They outfit the kitchen. So they outfit the building and the kitchen and everything, and then you come in with like Kent's Burgers. And so I've got the recipe.
Oh, so this is not like a restaurant food delivery. You're talking about like a specific.
No, this is Kent's Burgers is only available delivered to your door. Kent's Burgers doesn't have a retail location. Kent's Burgers is not a restaurant. Kent's Burgers rents rents the kitchen from Cloud Kitchen, which is the name. And then Cloud Kitchen basically owns the real estate and the tech, and then uses owner-operators for the grunt work in between. Because as we all, you probably know, like owning and operating restaurants is extremely difficult.
I did restaurant business for a very long time.
I didn't know that.
Almost 8 years.
Dang. So you would know this even better than I, but it's very difficult. Your inventory literally goes to crap if you don't use it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is not like you're buying 2x4s like we used to do. This, you're buying like raw goods that goes bad if you don't use it in certain periods. So anyhow, and it's always changing. The restaurant industry is very difficult, but they are fine-tuning the food delivery service piece, which allows Kent's Burgers to get started where otherwise I wouldn't be able to. Like, I can't go buy, a building and a retail and have to like all of these things. So
it's too expensive. I mean, the overhead is just ridiculous.
And if with things like COVID, like food delivery has shot way up, obviously. Fast food has done extremely well because the drive-thrus and everything. Chris Thomas was talking about this. Like, fine dining has taken a big hit, and fast casual is just sort of as it was.
Yeah.
But fast food and food delivery skyrocketed. So I think that's another example of a pivot.
I could get behind that idea because I hate ordering from a restaurant who does walk-in and stuff like that, like Uber, because working in the restaurant business, I've seen how long it takes.
Right.
For them to get there, and then by the time you get your food,
exactly,
you really don't enjoy it. And anyone who says they do, I think they're lying. But
the process is not designed for that. But if you
with
design
the process designed for that, like
around delivery,
you're making it, and it takes the time from getting there to my house almost as it would from the line to my table. I could get behind that.
Yeah, I agree.
I could get behind that.
There is going to be some very fascinating kind of ideas and ventures that come out of COVID.
Look, I have not fleshed this idea out with a lot of people. So I'm actually going to do a vlog on this. So I would like to hear your thoughts.
Wait,
where can people see your vlog, Alan?
I actually have no idea. I think it's like Alan Dixon on YouTube.
Okay. If they Google Alan Dixon
on YouTube.
I mean,
you can probably find Google Alan Dixon.
I'm always watching YouTube.
So you can find the vlog and the podcast and all that stuff. But all right. So here, I don't know how much time you guys have, but let me just.
I am free all day.
Okay, but here's
it's
what
my off day.
A question, and this goes back to this idea of what excites you, and this is something that really excites me, and really that I'm thinking through a lot because I'm in the real estate space, the development space is really huge. I think that's the next shift in my life. We're going to be moving into the development piece. But, you know, good, bad, or ugly, there is a sense of community that comes at the water cooler, right? Like historic, like we're built for community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're built to be around people and other people. We are a social being, right? So one thing that COVID has done is that it's shifted, it started to, in a big macro way, away from the idea of you go into the office every day, you bitch to your friends about how much you hate the boss, whatever. Like it's like CrossFit in a lot of ways. Why do people love CrossFit? I mean, there is a bonding experience that happens with shared suffering, right? I mean, like you go to CrossFit and everybody's like, "Oh, the workout sucks."
I mean, just like police academy. Here's bonding through suffering.
Yeah,
this is why
smoked in the rain and bear crawling and rolling through
100%.
the mud
Like this is why the Navy SEALs and special forces like that work, because they go through Hell Week, right? And there you come out of it feeling really connected to the people around you. Now, even if it's toxic, the complaining and all the stuff that people do in the typical work environment, in a way, builds community.
Yeah.
What happens when that community is gone? Like what happens when we're all shifted? Maybe it's not 100%, but you're used to going in 5 days a week. Now you go in 2 days a week or 1 day a week, right? What happens to the sense of community that people crave, right? And so I've really been thinking through this idea of like in the development space and in your neighborhood communities, one of the things that you guys love about Creve Hall is the fact that your kids go out and you walk and you have the neighbors and the kids go out and play with the pig with the neighbor kids, whatever, right?
The good old pig.
The good old Diesel.
Yeah, shout out to Diesel.
Shout out to Diesel. And I just
one of the lucky ones.
I don't know. I've just really been thinking to this space of like, what happens to that void of community and how do you fill that void? Like, how do you build communities in such a way that people want to come home to? Because, like, I think the need for community will always be there. So whenever people are no longer getting that 9 to 5 going in every day, what are they going to do to fill that void? Right? And so I don't know. I've just been thinking about that, and I'd be interested to know what your thoughts
so
are.
you don't have an idea.
Well, no,
I do.
He has an idea.
I have an idea.
He's teasing at this point.
Yeah, so, okay.
You're fishing.
I want
to know what your thoughts are first, though, because, I mean, do you not agree?
I do agree
that there is a sense of community in which we all crave.
100%.
100%.
Right,
Even though I was talking about having a good year, I mean, one of the things I've missed drastically is having 10 to 12 people over at the house, and we're just having beer, eating dinner, hanging out, playing board games, or even big parties at the church. Like, unfortunately, I didn't get to go to Ray's retirement party.
Okay, yeah.
But things like that.
Yes.
Like, even though it doesn't happen twice a week, once a week, but it still happens. I mean, there's still a void right now in me missing that stuff.
Yeah.
100%.
Because I just think that that piece will always be here. The need
it's human nature.
to be around people.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if we'll ever fully go back to the infrastructure that we've had forever. I don't, this industrial age, everybody goes into one spot. Now, it'll happen. There's always going to be warehouses. But even as technology increases, even factories are less human heavy, if you will,
absolutely,
than they used to be.
Yep.
Right? Like what happens when you eventually go into a McDonald's and you don't add the cash register or whoever it is doesn't ask you what do you want.
They scan your face.
They scan your face
and give you a prior order. That's already happening, by the way.
You go to the thing and you say, I want this, I don't want that. They can't jack up your order when you
Right.
punch it on the screen.
Yep.
Right? And so this idea of work being your fulfillment of community, as it starts to go away or it starts to lessen, I think that's going to continue to increase. And so for me, I'm really fascinated of how do you build communities that are community centric, right? Like to me, I think that's the next, I don't know, it just fascinates me.
So you're speaking of how do you lay out a community that basically
A housing community,
a housing
or
community,
development of some kind.
Yeah. So when you start talking about
okay.
this, I automatically started thinking of like neighborhoods and how you
100%.
how you build an infrastructure of a neighborhood to almost in a sense force community.
Force community.
Yeah.
Offer it. At least offer it.
Like,
At
not
least
even
offer
not
it.
even necessarily offering it. See, I don't even think that's enough. We've done that before. We offer it. People result to their normal. But I think I get where you're going. How do you, in a sense, without being aggressive about it, but passively enforce community?
Yes.
How do you do that?
How do you do that?
How-
How do you build communities in such a
That's
way?
interesting.
Like Apple intentionally made everybody go through the same doors to get in.
There's ways to do it, but how?
There's like they built their facilities to where all the office spaces were around. If you ever noticed, it looks like the iPhone button. Remember the old iPhone button before these? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They built their
Before
thing
it
so
looked
that
at our
people
face.
had to come to the middle, and they bumped into other departments
Right. Yes.
because they forced that community
Yep.
in a way without, like you said, without being aggressive.
But it's a passive, subconscious.
And so I see a lot of developers. What they're doing is they're going into this community. They're just putting up houses as fast as they can, and they get out,
and it's dull.
and it's dull. And so my thing is like, what is that evolution of development going to be to where what people are no longer getting in their 9 to 5s? They want to come home because it fulfills that sense of community.
I think you're onto something there,
I just think that
That's interesting.
I think that's the future.
I'm brainstorming now.
You
how
know,
you
like,
build a
yeah.
look,
neighborhood.
I've
force.
been open about the idea. I have a theory that in 50 years we won't own homes anymore. Now,
That's a bold one.
I say we won't own homes the way I say we don't burn candles. Do people actually burn candles? Yes,
Yes.
but they do it out of luxury. They don't do it out of necessity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like
Yeah.
this has already invaded the space of driving. We already have Uber, right? We already have all these things where like my wife's sister is 20 years old and she's still, well, actually, I think as of like 2 weeks ago, just now got her driver's license. At 20.
Yeah,
I
that's-
have
that's
seen
more
that become
common.
more
I
common.
okay,
that's more
I
common.
skipped school on my 16th birthday
to go get my
license.
license. I did
Yep.
too.
You know, but I'm not ignorant. Like I'm in the real estate space. I make a living by selling homes. And I'm saying
So flush out that idea. What do you mean?
Yeah, what do you
by
envision,
not
Alan?
owning homes? I want to know.
why,
what you-
okay, here's my theory. I think we are more and more going to be moving into a society where we want to be more and more mobile.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I want to, like if I have a job in which I can edit, okay, you know, you edit audio and you can do it here or you can do it on the beach. Why would you not live on the beach?
Because I hate the beach.
Okay, you hate the beach, but you love Colorado, right?
I've never been to Colorado, but I love the mountains.
The mountains,
The
okay,
cold
right?
weather,
It's
yeah.
Like if you could live here or you
The
could live in
cold
the
weather.
mountains,
Yes.
why? And you could do it from anywhere. Why would you not live in the mountains?
I would love to do.
Right.
police
And what?
work over-
Okay, why is it that if I want to, okay, if I own this house, okay, and I want to move to the mountains, now I've got to clean it up. I got to do all this crap. I got to hire a realtor. And listen, I'm a realtor. I am putting myself out of business with this theory. Okay, so
But then you're gonna put yourself in another
I'm
business
not being dramatic here. I'm not trying to be like romantic.
Yep.
Right. I make a living by selling homes, but there's too much friction.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to move tomorrow to the beach, why can't I just go and move?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to continue to permeate the younger generation as they come up. Like why do I own a car? I can just take an Uber everywhere that I want to go,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So
and-
what are you envisioning people living in?
I still think they're going to be homes, but I think it's going to be. I have a vision of we're going to move much more into renting. Right. I think people are going to opt to, if I rent this home and I want to go to the mountains next month, I don't have to go through the hassle of selling my home, potentially taking a bloodbath on it, and all this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as society continues, we're going to be more and more to the leasing piece. I mean, the studies are already showing that the next generation is far less likely to own a home than previous generations before them. Like the American dream used to be, I want to own a home with a picket fence.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to be mobile, right? And so when I say we're not going to own homes, I'm not saying nobody's going to own homes, but as a society, I think we're going to move more toward this idea of it's going to be much more fluid. If I want to move from here to San Francisco and I decide 2 years later I hate San Francisco and I want to move to the mountains, I can move to the mountains and removing that friction. So my thoughts is like, how do you develop these communities that force interaction, that force community, something we already want, and we remove the friction of movement, right? How do we remove that? How do you create a society to
Open
where,
door policy.
you
Neighborhood.
know,
You can't lock your doors. You're all
Look,
welcome.
think about
Come
it.
in.
Think about it. I mean, BMW already, and not just BMW, all of these already have the. If you buy a subscription to a car,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's really what you're talking about.
It's a subscription to
model
living.
housing.
Yeah.
it's subscription
idea.
housing
Yeah. Okay.
to where you can just move from one place to the next.
Okay.
But the only
So-
thing that I would see is somehow you would have to facilitate in that still some type of ownership, if that makes sense.
Maybe or maybe not.
Because I'm
maybe
just
not.
thinking,
I don't think people.
I hate living. I don't hate where we live, but I hate that it's not mine at the same time.
I fully agree
Does that
with
does that make sense? What I'm saying? So how do you
it does.
incorporate
Yeah.
that?
And I don't
type
know,
of-
and I don't know the nuts and bolts. I don't know how that's going to play out. Like, did you know in the 1950s, like when they would advertise the future, when they predicted like 2020, they predicted like the wife cleaning up at the house with robots everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't, they couldn't envision in their mind maybe the wife wants to freaking go work.
Right.
Like
Yep.
their limited mindset said, "Oh, women are just going to continue to work and clean the house.
Yeah.
They're just going to clean the house with robots
Just
now."
do it better. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead, they didn't realize there was a complete utter mind
Mm-hmm.
shift in the community to where now women make as much of the workforce as men, right? And so I don't know how that's going to play out, and I think time will eventually play itself out. But I think the need for community will always be here. And so, how do you facilitate communities to force community to where they're not getting it here, but they're finding it here? And I think that we're going to continue to be more fluid in our housing situation.
So the big ideas that I'm hearing here is mobility and community.
Mobility and community.
Is that really the two
Yeah,
big ideas?
that's
that
the
you
two
see
big
here?
ideas.
Mobility and community.
Mobility and community.
And I think the community piece, I don't think it could be or should be forced. I think it should be offered.
okay.
when we
I
say
think it should-
forced, I don't think we mean like it is. You can't like.
Okay,
avoid
there's a
it.
there's a
can't
re-
not,
there's
of
a
course,
there's
of
a
course.
there's a
But-
quote that says great design is obvious, brilliant design is invisible.
That's what I'm.
That
That's,
you
that's
see what
I'm
I'm saying? When I say
Yeah.
force community,
That's
I don't mean
exactly
like
what I'm
you
saying.
force community.
or
I'm
something
just
that you can't avoid. It's
I'm
just,
saying that you build it in a way in which community comes naturally.
100%. I think you're onto something there, and it's more than just having a development with a swimming pool
100%.
and a
yes.
restaurant and
Yeah.
a grocery store. It's more than that.
It's more than that.
So I like that, and then the subscription model I also really like.
It's way look, and it is not a model that will work in 2020, and it's
Right.
probably not a model that'll work in 2035. But I'm saying that
Well, the subscription piece of that model, the community piece of
The
that
community
model, I
piece-
think would work really well in 2020.
it'll work in 2020, it'll work in 2035, and I'm not saying the subscription model will work even in 2035. But I'm just saying, as we move forward in society, it has already went into transportation, the way we look at transportation. Why would it not look into the way we live?
I agree with that. What would be interesting is if, let's say, you had Dixon communities, and let's just take the lid off this thing. And by the way, I've got 20 minutes. No, I've got 15.
I know.
minutes.
I gotta. Yeah.
All right, so we got to get you out of here. But
God,
if
it's
you
already.
had-
It's already. Man,
Dude, we've been
here
going for a while.
so if you had Dixon communities,
This has been a good one.
it's been great. So if you had communities around, let's just take America, for example, before we think about around the globe, but around America, and you would charge people a certain amount of money every month to live in any of those communities. And they have to live in any one of those communities for at least 3 months, because you can't have people moving in
Yeah,
for
just
a month
in and
then
out and go.
in and out. That's a
Yeah.
hotel or it's whatever. Like that's not. But if they're there for 3 months and they can move around the country to any Dixon community that they want to live in for the same fee, and maybe you help them to move for an extra fee. I mean, that's something. And maybe one of those communities is a house on the mountains in Colorado, and that's
There is-
available. And if someone's in it, then it's not available.
Yeah.
But if you
There
just
is
kind of
just-
structure that.
Look, and I do this for a living. There's too much friction if you want to move your family somewhere
Mhm.
or yourself or you and your whoever, your spouse.
Your
If you-
dog, your
like,
cat, your
If,
pig.
if
whatever.
there,
I
I'm
like
just
that.
saying, there's
Yep.
too much friction right
I agree.
now. If I wanted to get up, like right now, I moved to an apartment and out of my personal residence. I own with their investment properties, we have 5 or 6 properties, and I chose to live in an apartment
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want to go through the hassle of fixing, because I have to fix up my
Right.
house, I have to renovate my house, so I can put it on the market,
Yeah.
I can sell it. It's too much
Yep, it's involved.
friction.
Yep.
So the question is, and I don't have the answer to this, but how do you remove that friction? I think the person who figures out how to remove the friction from a mobile lifestyle will win. Anyway.
I like that idea, Alan. I like.
You've got me racking my brain over here about how to make a neighborhood that like passively enforces like community. I don't know.
Why do you guys not like my word offer?
Because
can't the community just offer community?
we already do that, and it
not
doesn't
very well
work.
for the most part. Not very well though.
But
I mean, there are developers getting into that space more. There is some even in Nashville that are getting more intentional about that or deliberate about that, offering the community space. But that's not very common at all. For the most part, they're building houses.
Look, there are people in the space that I look at and they're doing it really well, and I think they're onto something.
Yeah,
I still think when you just offer it, humans will naturally revert to like their introvert personality.
Yeah.
So
it comes back to subliminal kind of design. It's designed so well that
I know that forcing is kind of a strong word.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I think that's a great idea.
It is a great idea.
I love that. Yeah.
I think it's going to happen. I mean, I think that.
Well, let's get to it first before anybody else does.
Exactly. Look, I think this is the future, regardless of who does it. I think this will naturally unveil itself. Yep. So how do you get ahead of that trend, and how do you innovate in that space? Anyway, just going on a tangent. Community. I've thought about community. That's the thing I've thought about over and over in 2020. People are losing that sense of community. I think that may be I don't know. I think that may be contributing to the fact of isolation makes people do crazy stuff.
I think it does.
Right?
I think it's a big.
Here's what I think too, and we don't need to discuss it, but I think when it comes to working from home, one of the things a lot of people realizing is, oh wow, we can be pretty effective working from home as opposed to driving an hour and going to an office. I think the step beyond that people aren't talking about, at least that I'm not hearing yet, but I also think is a consideration, is how many people you had at your company that you didn't actually need.
Yeah.
More cost effective.
Well, and here's why I say that, because there was a girl at our gym today who's there pretty commonly who had a phone. You know, they make these yoga pants with a lot of the phone pockets or whatever.
The little slide.
Yeah, and I could tell this is CrossFit Gym, and she had like a phone in her pocket. I was like, hey, you have a phone in your pocket, right? She's like, yeah, with my work, I'm on call. She was on a conference call, air quotes, that she just had to call in. And I was like, oh, are you in like healthcare or law enforcement or something where you have to be like on call? And she's like, no, it's like just like she just has to like call in. Like, so it's not really a knock on her because maybe that call wasn't that important or whatever, but she's carrying her phone in her pocket so that she can call in at just the right time to be on a call while she's doing a CrossFit
She's
workout.
not even paying attention.
She's not paying attention. And the company's probably thinking, by the way, I have no idea if this company changed their practices I don't even know the company. I don't even know the industry that she's in. All I'm saying is a lot of people are like, oh, wow, look how efficient we can work from home, which I disagree with to some extent. I agree with some of it and I disagree with some of it. But so that's where the attention is like, look how efficient we can be working from home. But I think there's actually a step beyond that, which no one's really talking about yet, which is look how efficient, or look how well our companies can actually run with some percentage of our people being kind of checked out. Yeah. And when we realize that, we're going to fine-tune the workforce.
Absolutely.
And those people that are half-assing it while they work from home are going to have to look for some other job.
Quick note on that. I actually have always wondered why the 9-to-5 office cubicle things were kind of a thing. And I think 2020 has kind of been shown my theory. I think eventually we'll get to this. I think coming out of 2020, working from home will come a lot more prevalent. And I think companies will do well if they offer both but also still force them to come into the office a little bit. Because there are things you need to come in the office.
I agree.
And I've always thought, if I was a CEO of a company, if I ran a big business, hey, if you can get your work done from home, go home. Don't need to sit in this cubicle to sit here mindlessly doing nothing. If you got stuff you can take care of, I just need your work done and I need it done to a certain standard.
Yep.
So go home, go do what you got to do. You'll get paid as long as I have my work done.
Yep.
When it needs to be done.
Yep. I think it totally depends on the role. I think for a lot of roles, they can be traveling across the country. A lot of sales roles are like this. You can be anywhere you want traveling. But then there's certain functions within the company where to do it virtually, it takes twice as long and it's twice as hard and you have half the understanding than if you just do it in person.
Absolutely.
It's the big reason we only do this podcast in person.
Yeah.
There is a magic to being in person that Zoom has not yet replaced. Will it replace one day with holographs and things like that? Maybe. I don't know, but it's nowhere near replacing in person at this point. There's still something about being in person. You can accomplish something more efficiently. It depends what you're trying to accomplish, but particularly when it comes to ideas and strategy and collaboration and planning and those types of things, being in person is, you can't replace
It's unmatched.
it. Yeah, it's unmatched. All right, guys, how do you want to wrap this up?
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming back on.
It's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, it
I
was
really
fun.
enjoyed
I
this
didn't
time.
realize what time it was. Holy
I really
Good.
think this one went way better than our first one.
Yeah.
I really
well, the third
enjoy-
one's going to go even
Yeah,
better.
absolutely. I enjoyed our first one, but I really enjoyed this one.
we didn't
did
have
too.
we didn't have
I
as
did
heated
too.
debates this time as we did last time.
Which I think was golden on your part, that we just got here and we just talked. We talked about personal stuff, nothing political and nothing like along those lines, jobs. And all. I really like the route you took this time.
Yeah, agreed. So final thoughts for the listeners. Mac Allen, final thoughts.
Buy E.H. Taylor because it's a phenomenal bourbon. You can pick it up. I'm not going to tell you where my guy is because I want my
He
bottles.
has a guy. So
the
sophisticated.
VIP list.
Yeah.
I've been into whiskeys for a little while, for a couple years, but this year I've just recently got into wanting to build a big collection. I think I'm at about 9 or 10 bottles now.
Nice.
We're trying to buy a house, so like I want to build a like shelves and have like my lower shelf, my mid tier, and my
Ooh, I
top
like
shelf
that.
bourbons for when we have parties and things
Love
like that.
that.
We can have a collection, and so
Well,
I
at some
had-
point, Alan and I going to need to be invited over to one of these parties.
Right.
wait
Mac.
till we
I
we
agree.
get our house.
I had I
wait
had
till
to,
COVID's over.
I had to because I had nowhere to put on my bottles. I had to cap myself at like 17, and I'm like, all right, no more until we get into our house.
What a great problem to have.
No more.
Yesterday, my wife tells me that all the time. No more. And yesterday I went to go change out a bottle because I bought a bottle of Rabbit Hole. I don't know if you guys heard of Rabbit
I
Hole.
have heard of
great-
Rabbit.
It's
yeah.
pretty good.
It is
I got the
a
blue label one. It's
Great.
it's a $50 bottle, and I got home and I noticed the seal was already broken. And so Thanksgiving happened and all that kind of stuff, so I didn't get a chance. And I went back yesterday to change it out. They were super awesome. And I came home and I was like, babe. She's like, what? I was like, I don't know what happened, but I went to go get this changed out, and somehow 2 more bottles got in my bag. I don't know what happened. She was like,
She
"You
knows what
serious?"
happened.
But I bought Maker Mark. They have a 101. It's a limited edition. Their winter whiskey.
Okay.
It's really good. If you go, they have it at Frugal McDougal down over, is that 4th, I think it's off of?
Mm-hmm.
They have it there in pretty good supply for $37. Other stores, it's going for like 90 to 100. So if you can go pick it up, I'd go
wow.
pick it up.
Wow.
Yes. It's
Okay.
it's really good. I actually tried some last night. It's phenomenal.
I love how your last thoughts for the listeners had to do with the best bourbons to buy. I think that gives a lot of insight into what you enjoy, which is wonderful. That's wonderful. Alan, final thoughts.
Here's to a great 2021 and self-awareness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of letting go of everything but what you're built for.
Absolutely.
Kent?
Cheers, boys. I can't top that, I don't think. So thanks, guys, for being on.
Absolutely.
See you,
Enjoyed it.
We
Thank you,
enjoyed
guys. Merry Christmas, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your 2020.
Absolutely.
And don't forget to plan ahead for 2021. Thanks, guys.
See you.
Fun.